All right, a few things set here. We are live. Let me check a few things. Doing something new here. Let me just see something. Just turn the volume down. Hold on one sec. Using this StreamYard here for the first time, so bear with me. I am checking it out, testing a few things, so hang tight. Just mute this. One sec. Hang tight. Mute that. All right. Let me edit this real quick. I'm going to edit this real quick. All right, just hang tight for a minute. All right, everybody hang tight. Again, I'm using this StreamYard. I just got to do a quick editing. This is my first time using it, so just bear with me. Everybody be patient. Give me a couple of minutes to get things in order. I pretty much got it set up. Start using this because it's going to give me the ability to do some more stuff. Okay, so just hang tight for a minute, and we will get going. Okay, hold on a second. All right. Bear with me, people. Almost there. It's just when you use these streaming platforms, you can't edit some of this. If anybody's ever used them, you know what I'm talking about. You can't edit some of this stuff when you stream it to another platform until you actually get on, which I hate that shit, to be honest with you. Hopefully they fix that, but just bear with me. All right, I think we're almost there. All right. Yeah. All right. It's not that it's difficult. It just takes a little bit of time. All right. I think we're good. All right. I need a date. We could put today. Let's do that. Today's the 14th. And it takes out all your settings. You learn this shit as you go along. All right. Enough of me talking to myself. I think we are good. I got it. All right, cool. Let me just save that. And then let me go back into the live real quick. I think we're good. Hang tight 1 second. All right. Let me get live on Instagram. There we go. All right, so I can see this now. Let me make sure this is muted. All right. I'll figure this out as I play around with it. I'll get quicker with it. All right. Almost there, almost there. Just make sure that. All right. We are good. Just make sure that's streaming. Yeah. All right, cool. Cool. All right. Why is that doing that? Damn. There we go. All right, bear with me. Bear with me, people. All right, hold on 1 sec. Let me close this. This thing bugging out. Hold on. I don't know why this is. All right. Give me 1 sec. Let me open this back up. I'm almost there, people. I got it. Just cut off on me on the other side. All right. Give this a second to come back up so I could monitor both. And actually, I don't even need to because it shows me here I don't. Okay. All right. We are live. Again, testing something new here. It's going to give me the ability to do some more things. Just because, again, this is the first time. Somebody just type in the sound good. I just want to make sure the sound is good. Somebody just type in the chat. You can hear me clear. I don't want to start going. Again, it's the first time I'm using this without being on somebody else's platform. Can everybody hear me? Somebody type in a yes. Please confirm that the sound is good, that you can hear me. Anybody out there? I don't see anybody typing in yes. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it, Roberia. All right. All right, you see the title. So I'm going to be changing it up a little bit. I'm going to be adding a wider range of topics on the channel. I mean, obviously with this cult left-hand path, but I'm going to be broadening the areas or topics that we cover. So I'm going to be widening that because a lot of the topics that you're going to see me doing, in addition to dealing with various aspects of the left-hand path, the occult, and esoteric knowledge. These were a lot of the things that I taught over the years. So this was actually inspired. Actually, hold on. Let me get live on Instagram. I haven't did all that. I forgot to get on the Instagram. Hold on 1 sec. Let me just turn that on. My bad. All right. Let's get going there. All right. Checking the connection there. Hang tight. All right. Yeah, so like as I was saying, I'm going to be broadening the aspect of titles that I'll be talking about, topics. This one here, as I was saying before I was checking this, this was actually inspired by one of the students who I'm going to leave anonymous. She doesn't want her name put out there, so I will respect that. It's a student I've been working with for a few months. I work with this student a little bit different than some others in the mentorship program for various reasons, which I'm not going to get into as irrelevant. She brought up a lot of good questions and topics because we have to understand everybody in their spiritual journey, everybody where they're at in their learning, is trying to get clarity on various different things because we all come from obviously different backgrounds. We all are at different points in our spiritual journey. So we all have varying different questions on certain topics. So this one comes up a lot. And there's quite a few that she brought to my attention, which I thought were very beneficial, that hold some importance, that could help others. And I figured I'd start here with this was one of the first things, that came up. The origin of how we were created. We talk about the gods and the goddesses a lot in different pantheons. We're going to address many different areas and aspects of this, but I want to be clear as I do this. I, by no way, and I'll make sure I make this disclaimer clear when we do topics like this, I am no way, shape, form, or fashion promoting it as 100% infallible. I'm going to be referring to a lot of resources, a lot of the things that I've studied over the years. I'm going to give you guys those resources. Some of you may be familiar with some of it. You may even have the resources. That's great. Some of you may not. Okay. I'm going to leave it up to you to do your further digging on the subject so you can actually come to your own conclusions. I got to make that clear because if I don't, sometimes things can get misconstrued and turned around. All right, but before we get into it, just real quick, couple quick announcements. I'm going to run through them real quick. I'll give you the quick breakdown. We have an upcoming class, which is this Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the Egyptian Vampiric class. I believe it's number 4. I could be wrong on that, 4 or 5. That's for Patreon. If you're a tier 3 member and above, you already have access to that class. If you want to sign up for that class, you can sign up individually. The class is $56. All the classes are that individually, the ones I'm going to run through to save time. Or it's best, obviously, if you go and join Patreon tier 3. That gives you access to all 3 classes a month. That's 3 classes a month on that tier 3 level that I do privately on Patreon. I don't do a lot of that material here openly on the YouTube. So you have access to all 3 monthly classes, plus the monthly ritual we do together as a group. We're doing a Lilith and Samael to become like Baphomet ritual at the end of this month, which is creating that inner harmony that we all are striving for as practicing adepts, spiritualists, occultists, whatever terminology floats your boat. You'll be able to participate in that. And again, the question that always comes up if you do join the Patreon, you do get access to all of the material since day one. The channel, that's tier 3. I want to be clear on that, tier 3. You get all access to all of the material from day one. So yes, you can catch up. If there's an ongoing series that we're doing, you have the ability to obviously catch up in your own free time. And you have access to that material going back to the very first class, and then the current ones that are ongoing at the moment, and then obviously future ones going forward. Okay. So you do have access to all that. That is the most efficient and economical and cost-effective way to be a part of these classes, as opposed to signing up individually for them. Tier 3 is only $25 a month. And I don't think you're going to get 3 classes on a ritual on anybody's platform I'm actually showing you in depth of how to do the work. As I said before, my purpose and what I do is I try to show people how to do it for themselves. I show you how you do work. All the talking is great and everything, and the building and the knowledge. But as I've said from day one, what good is that if you can't apply that to better yourself? It's pointless. It doesn't even make sense. Then you're just reading shit and regurgitating shit. So I don't think you'll get that value, in my opinion, anywhere else. I know people, because I can afford to do that, because I don't do this for a living. I can afford to be reasonable in what I charge people, especially in we see what's going on out here with the economy. So I'm not trying to rip anybody off. I'm not trying to take anybody to the bank. I'm just trying to give you something of value, and I'm trying to give you something for a very reasonable price. I don't think you'll get that anywhere. I'm almost certain of it. So we have those upcoming classes. We have those rituals. Check it out when you get time. Patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, patreon.com/Baniti. Don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the drop down bell and hit all notification, or you will not get notifications of uploaded videos or live classes like this. That's anybody's platform. Don't forget to do that. Also, the Journey to Black Adept Conference is set. I just got confirmation that we can use the same venue we used last year. I actually just got off in a conversation with the sister that owns the venue, and she has welcomed us back, has confirmed the dates. So it will officially be at the same venue in downtown Hollywood, Florida. That'll be October 27th to October 30th. It'll be a 4-day event. Thursday on the 27th, 8 p.m., we have a meet and greet, just to give you a brief rundown of the itinerary. That'll be Thursday night. Everybody just gets together, gets a little food, some drinks, kicks it, meets everybody. And then we meet back up Friday morning at the venue. We have various different, just like the past 4 years, we will have different classes, workshops, presentations during the day, and that'll take place from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Then we will break, and we come back later that night around 7:30 to do our group ritual work. One indoor on Friday night, one outdoors on Saturday night. That itinerary is the same format on Friday and Saturday. Classes and workshops from 9 to 4, ritual in the evening. Then obviously we always finish the night out with a group get together, dinner, some socializing. We do some fun stuff too, kick it, etc. And then Sunday on the 30th from 12 noon to 4 p.m., we close it out with a question and answer discussion, pretty much on the day, the weekend's events, or anything you want to have questions on. It's an open roundtable question and answer discussion. That's a Journey of the Black Adept Conference number 5. That will be upcoming October 27th to the 30th. Venue is booked. It's confirmed. It's always the last weekend in October. So if you're going to come, make your plans, start booking your flights, get it early so you don't spend a lot of money on flights and lodging and all that. I know that can be very expensive. And this is why we keep it the same weekend every year. So anybody that plans to come can plan as early out as they can just to save that money on travel, tickets, things of that nature. If you need any information on that, you can reach out to me at khnum19@gmail.com. Also, if you're interested in a spiritual reading or a spiritual consultation, I offer various different kinds of readings, telepathic readings, Egyptian oracle readings, shadow work readings, which is always a great place to start. I always suggest people start there if you don't know where to start. Readings with Santa Muerte and the spirits of the dead, etc. If you want a full list of prices and types of readings I offer, shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy to send you a full price list. Again, same email, khnum19@gmail.com, if you are interested in a reading or a consultation. All right, so we talked about the Patreon, we talked about the classes, spiritual readings, things of that nature. Any foregoing, more information you need, khnum19@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy to get that information. Also, I want to give shout out to everybody that reached out on all the different platforms, whether it was the Primordial Chaos Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, email. I appreciate everybody sending the birthday wishes. I did a live stream. We had a blast Friday night on my birthday, going to see my favorite MC of all time, Rakim. It was a long night, people, because Rakim didn't take the stage to 2 a.m. in the morning. And if you saw my live feed on Instagram, you saw what time that popped up. It was between 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning. So we didn't get out of there. I didn't get back home. I didn't get into my bed till about 5 o'clock in the morning. Need I say more? And I think everybody in there was smoking weed. You didn't even need to smoke to get high. All you had to do was just simply be in the premises, and you were feeling nice. But it was a cool crowd. Everybody was laid back. It was fun. And again, it was just the timing was perfect for me, for him to be performing that night on my birthday. So yeah, we did it up in there till damn near 5 a.m. in the morning. Makes you realize you're getting a little older, man. Back in the day, that was nothing to me, but phew, now I don't know. I can't do that shit on a regular no more. But I want to give a shout out and thanks to anybody that reached out to me. I know I couldn't maybe get back to all of you. If you emailed me or sent me a message on Instagram or Facebook, I want to thank everybody for wishing me positive birthday vibes. Thank you for that. All right, so we're back at work. All right, so as I said, I'm going to be expanding here on the channel some of the topics we discuss. So this is a little bit off the cusp. Again, this has been inspired by a student I have in my mentorship program. As I was working with her last week, and I'm going to leave her name anonymous, as I said, because she does not want to be, that information out just because, and I respect that. It just sparked a lot of things within me, a lot of things that probably need to be addressed and covered. And I want to broaden the channel to cover a lot more different things. Obviously, we will always be dealing with the essence of the occult and the left-hand path, but we'll deal with esoterical topics like this. Now, again, if you came late, I want to be clear, because I know there'll be some people coming late and you didn't get the disclaimer. Again, I'm going to be putting the information out there. I am by no way, shape, form, or fashion are saying that some of these topics we talk about are 100% infallible truth. You need to come to that realization for yourself. All right? You need to do that research for yourself. I'll add my input and experience on these topics over the last 20 plus years. I'll give you whatever resources that you can look up for yourself, as I said earlier, and you come to that conclusion. All right. So we do this because it's not about right or wrong, right? That's part of it. It's strictly about you coming to the understanding for yourself. And that's what self-mastery is all about. All right, so this topic comes up, right? We hear in a lot of circles. Hold on, I'm also going to send an invite. I think we're going to have Raven joining us. Let me send her a invite. Hold on one second. Send that invite real quick. And I'll be bringing some more. This allows me to bring people in real time too, which is a great thing. So hold on one second. Let me send that out right now before I forget. All right, if she's watching, I sent that. All right, that's going through. Let me just make sure that goes through. All right, there we go. All right, so this comes up quite frequently, this topic. How do we get here? How were humans created? What is the origin of the different races? Why are there different races? Why do we have different blood types, right? How did we evolve and how were we created, right? In a lot of pantheons, we always make reference to gods and goddesses. It don't matter if it's ancient African cultures and civilizations, ancient Egypt. It could be Greek mythology, right? You hear about the gods and the goddesses. It could be in other European mythology, the Vikings and the Norse mythology, right? No matter what part of the globe you go to, it always talks about these superior type of beings that we call gods, goddesses, etc. You can't avoid it. It's in the mythology, it's in the history, it's in the culture of a lot of these pantheons or dogmas or spiritual systems, whatever you want to call them, right? What we need to address the obvious first, right? And when it comes to religion in the Bible, we have to address it, right? Because it's the pink elephant in the room that you can't avoid. And I want to make it something clear. It's not the Bible or the Quran that's a problem. It's the way individuals use it for their personal interpretation. Because for those that are taking the esoteric or occult Bible study class, you know it's an occult book, right? You see how we're breaking it down in the class, right? There's a lot of stuff that's encoded in there, metaphorical, symbolic, that is taken from cultures that predate it, like the creation story, right? When you're reading the first 7 chapters of Genesis, you're basically reading the story of the Gilgamesh and the Sumerian creation story. When you do your history, you find out that a lot of that comes from the ancient Babylonians or Sumerians. When you look at the later so-called individuals that were calling themselves Israelites or Jews, got that biblical story, the first 7 chapters of Genesis, when they resided in Babylon or Samaria for X amount of years. And then when you read the history, you find as they came back into Jerusalem to rebuild Solomon's temple, this is when we know what's called your modern day Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Old Testament. It's not the whole Old Testament. Was starting to be compiled. So these creation stories come from various different sources. So we have to start with religion first, because that's the obvious. Now, in the so-called Bible, it alludes and leaves many clues that there's more to this story. It's just people don't look at it in depth. And again, I want you to come to your conclusion. I'm not telling you to accept and believe everything I'm telling you. So if you hear some stuff that you may not like or agree with, I'm not saying it because I'm trying to get you not to agree with it and get you hot. I'm saying it to give you something to think about. And because this is a path of self-mastery, it is your job to do the research and come to a conclusion. I can't give you clarity and understanding on everything that you're trying to find out. We do know this. It just proof some mystical being just didn't snap their fingers and everything was created. All right, let's start with basic common sense, right? And as I said before, unfortunately, you can't teach people to have common sense. You either have it or you don't. That's just the way it is. You can't teach it, all right? We do know we all should be as reasonable thinking, mature people, regardless of your age, because maturity is not just based on the number of your age, it's also based on your understanding and your wisdom. So when I say maturity, I'm not just talking about age, because if I said many times over the years, just because you're old in age don't necessarily qualify you for being an elder, because I've seen some stupid ass old people too. Let's keep it real. We unfortunately think because somebody might be old, I'm not saying don't respect your elders, but let's not give everybody the pass or the title because they're an elder that they automatically know better. That's not necessarily true. I'm gonna be real. All right. But we can come to the conclusion, nobody poof snapped their finger and everything appeared. So we have to dismiss the fairy tale myths of these creation stories that have been passed on to us, forced onto us, and just really downright don't make any type of sense. Okay? Hold on 1 second. I don't know why this thing's kind of freezing up. All right. Can everybody see and hear me good? Looks like my thing's freezing up a little bit. Am I good? I just want to make sure so I don't keep talking and okay. All right, there we go. Yeah, so I want to make that clear. Just because somebody claims to be an elder, claims to have wisdom, we must test every spirit. I don't care, young and old. Don't buy that shit because somebody comes and claims they're this or that, or they give themselves a title. Most of these titles these people are walking around with are self-given. Priest this, elder this, master guru this, fucking chef boyardee this, whatever title. Don't fall for that crap, okay? Doctor, I love all these people that are on the internet and on these social calling themselves doctor this and have no validated credentials. And I'm not saying what you know needs to be validated by some academic institution. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes these are things that fluff people's ego up. Let me take a title. I'm a master this. And I'm like, if you put the word master in front of your name, I got questions for you, right? If you put priest in front of your name or priestess or elder, I got questions for you, right? Because that could be misleading to individuals who don't know no better. That's why I don't use any titles. I don't put any of these things in front of my name. For those that know, as long as I've been on this platform, I'm just plain old Baniti. And old Baniti means is teacher. That's it. That's what it means when you look it up. That's it. That's what I do, teach. I don't need to put guru in front of my name, priest this, elder this, and put like 8 long heavy names that sound all deep and spiritual. I just don't feel the need. I need to do any of that stuff. All right. So that doesn't qualify people, but we all can be in agreement that the religious story of creation is comical. And it's sad in this day and time that people still look at it literal and don't understand its esoterical and metaphorical in nature, right? Now, when you go into the Bible, we'll start there. Let's get the obvious out of the way. That's not how we first came about. When you're reading the creation story in the book of Genesis, it is not talking about the very beginning. First of all, we know as occultists on the left-hand path, there is no beginning, there is no end. When you talk about existence, when you talk about the primordials, whether it's the primordial mothers, the primordial beings, male, female, archetype, whatever, when you use that term, you basically are saying there is no parameters that gauge false linear time of a beginning and an end. Let's get that clear. So what is the Bible talking about that so many religious people think is the beginning? Now, I'm going to do another class. I'm not going to get into this tonight because I'm going to focus on that one whole class. I'm going to show you that there was no Exodus in depth. I'm going to show you this whole Israelite Exodus. I'm going to break it down to you. I'm going to give you sources that nobody's going to be able to refute. Trust me when I tell you. I'm going to give you where you can find all this. Some of you might have a knowing of this already and have for years, but I'm going to really go in depth on this because that's the foundation of that whole story. And if that is debunked, everything else that proceeds from it is just not real. But we'll get into that on another time, another class, all right? But the Bible, what is it talking about that where religious people who believe in it literally think it's the beginning? All right, so let's use common sense and reasoning first, and let's get this out of the way real quick. All right, we see the three worldwide most popular monotheistic religions, which is Islam, which is the most youngest out of the three monotheistic religions, which just is basically a little bit over 1,400 plus years old, right? Then we have the one that precedes it, which is the second youngest or second oldest, either way you look at it, Christianity, which goes back a little bit over 2,000 plus years, right? And then the father that birthed those religions, Judaism, now again, I'm saying this according to their biblical history, goes back, the Genesis story, et cetera, goes back a little bit over 6,000 years ago. Now, let's use common sense here, people. If their history can only go back 6,000 years, now there'll be some that say, oh no, and I'm going to address that because there's a lot of groups out there that will say, oh no, it goes beyond that, and they use certain quotes, and I'll address that when it comes up. But their origin only goes back 6,000 years. We know this planet's been here way beyond 6,000 years. This is just common fucking sense, right? We know if there are religious groups, not all, but there are religious groups who believe that Adam and Eve were the first human beings on the planet. Well, if you believe that and you also acknowledge the fact that your history only goes back 6,000 years, that's a problem. Because you can now, with technology, you can go on the internet, you can pull up information on the bones of Lucy that they found in Ethiopia through carbon and fossil dating 1.5 billion years ago, through that carbon and fossil dating. So there's explaining to do. What they're explaining to do is we know these people weren't Muslims, Christians, or Jews because those religions didn't even exist, right? So there's a deeper breakdown of this story, this origin. So who were these people? Or who were these first humans? Where did they evolve from? How did they come about? How did they come into existence? And they obviously weren't practicing Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, because these are spiritual paths that come later. These are religions that men created and started after the fact, right? These are when certain cultures and civilizations took a lot of the stories of the ancients and adjusted it to their culture, their lifestyle, their language, and created their own religions and way of life, right? This is fact. Before there were any pyramids, because then there's some people who get stuck in Egypt, and that's a mistake too, because you have to even go further back to the Neolithics, right? If you're familiar with the Neolithics, and Dr. Ben talked about this a lot, right? You had beings that occupied the Tigris, Euphrates River the Nile River, prior in that whole region that we're familiar with, the upper and lower Nile of Egypt and upper and lower Egypt, before there were pyramids, before there were what we know now as Egyptian culture and civilization, there were these Neolithics that existed there. Some know them as the Pygmies and the Watusis. They weren't Christians, Muslims, or Jews. They weren't practicing ancient Egyptian culture. We always connected to Egypt because Egypt was the first great established culture and civilization, right? But there's some people who get stuck like Chuck also there, and they limit that understanding to Egypt only, right? Because there's a lot, and a lot of this comes from here in the West, especially here in America. There's a lot of shit that in the occult, in metaphysics and esotericism, like everybody now is on the internet with all this fucking astrology shit, the blood moon. I saw some shit recently, strawberry moon, and all this other, that stuff is only acknowledged here in the West. I want to make that clear. Any occultist, whether it's in Africa, they don't acknowledge any of that stuff. There's Mercury retrograde stuff that's talked about a lot here in the West. I'm not saying they don't acknowledge astrology. They did. I'm going to get into something tonight. I'm going to go into one of Credo Mutwa's books. And there's a section in there on the origin of the gods. I'm going to give you some of these sources. But they didn't use astrology the way we use it here in the West. It's very new agey, right? It's very modern, and it comes, and its origin is from Western philosophy. And that's why I don't really fuck with it, because in my opinion, people get too damn religious with it. I don't care about no blueberry moon, no blood moon, no banana split moon. I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. Because if you are a god or a goddess and you're in control of your spirituality, no motherfucking moon has any control over me. Let's just establish that shit, okay? Now, you can have a difference of opinion to it. You're entitled to it. That's great. I don't sit around like, oh, my left ball sack is tingling today. It must be the Mercury retrograde. Oh, I'm so pissed off and angry today. Oh, it must be that blood moon. Please, people, stop with this garbage. Stop. And then you want to turn around and say you're a god? You're a goddess and you're in control of your spiritual destiny, but you're at the mercy of the forces of lunar energy? Think about that shit for a minute. But anyway, without getting sidetracked, let's go into a few things. I'm not going to stay in the Bible too long, but the Bible leads clues that allude that this creation story in Genesis is not the beginning that religious people think. Then I'm going to go into some of Credo Mutwa's work, and I suggest you get his books because he goes back to some of the ancient African star people. I want to be careful when I talk about beings from the sky, extraterrestrial life and civilization, because people can get a little spooky with it. We also have to use common sense and see we are not the only intelligent life form in the universes, okay? Let's be clear on that. If you literally think, even though I may not talk about it openly, I've taught classes for years on origins of extraterrestrials, other life forms. I've deaded it for many years because people tend to go to Spookyville with it, right? And that's what I don't want to happen here. So I want you to stay grounded and have that inner harmony mentally, emotionally, and spiritually so you could put these things into context and you can come to a conclusion and get answers. We all have these questions. How did we come about? How did we get here? Where are we going? Right? How did this all come about? Don't front. These are a lot of the questions, and we never really got the full answers to them because you can't get the full answers because there's a part of that understanding you're going to have to do yourself. See, we have a lot of lazy people that want to be a part of a group or organization, or they want to come up under some elder and study, and they want that person or a group of people to do everything for them. It doesn't work like that, people. You've got to put the work in yourself. All right? You have to put the work in yourself. All right? So we will talk about a lot of these things. We also can agree, in addition to what I'm about to go on, we're not the only intelligent. If you think humans on the planet Earth are the only intelligent life form, you're stupid as hell. Okay? There's a lot of things that have transpired over the years that leave evidence that there is other intelligent life form that's been coming back and forth here for many years. Okay? Many years. But we got to be careful because then everybody comes out of the woodworks. I was abducted by aliens. This happened and that happened. I'm not saying it wasn't because that subjectively is a subjective experience. That is a reality that can happen. But the problem is when somebody comes out and says that and then wants others again, just like I say with everything else, to sign off on it, it becomes spooky and religious. So no need for anybody to share their abduction experiences. It's personal. That should be talked about at discretion if that has happened to you, in the right environment and setting. Don't put yourself out there on Front Street, right? Because we need to establish, in addition to what I'm about to go through, that we cannot be the only intelligent life form in these multiverses, universes, whatever you want to call it. We'd be foolish to think otherwise, okay? So how did we get here? How did we come about? Where did this whole concept of the God? Well, let's go into Genesis first. Let's get the religious stuff out of the way because there's many clues that were left in there. And this is the only reason why I'm going in here. All right? And again, do your research. And I'm using this to show there's more to the story. So if we go into Genesis chapter 1, right? 26. In the Genesis story, there's two creations of man and woman in chapter 1 and 2, which most people don't address. I've talked about that a little bit before. But I'm going to get into just a couple key quotes that leave the door open, right? If you go into Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, it says, "And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over the cattle and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." Well, let's first establish this. If you go into Genesis 1:1, I'm going to come back to 26. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. What's the word beginning in the Hebrew? Bereshith. And Bereshith means to reconstruct. That does not mean beginning. If you reconstruct something, there's two key words I'm going to show you in here. The other word is replenish. I'm going to show you this, and I've talked briefly about this on and off over the years. To reconstruct something means you are repairing or you are modifying or improving something that was already created. Now, there's some that use the etymology of the words. There's some scholars over the years that will break the word Genesis down metaphorically as genealogy of Isis. That's been talked about in certain circles. I think that's just using esoterical interpretation. I don't think that could really be verified 100%, but I want to throw that out there. But we see the word means to reconstruct, right? And the earth, here's the most important part, verse 2, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep." So it's talking about the primordial state, right? The earth was without what? Form and void, right? And darkness was upon the face of the deep. So when we talk about this primordial energy, this primordial chaos, right? When we talk about how all things emerged from this primordial energy, this is confirming it. Even their monotheistic God existed in this void, this darkness. So as I said, I think on the last video, darkness can't be an evil or a bad thing. It's just those who come up with their own misinterpretations, right? Now watch this. "And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." What does this mean? The Spirit of God. So it's not talking about a human being, right? Now, when we go into, now you have to look at this in an esoterical occult aspect. When it says the Spirit of God moved across the face of the waters and the void of the deep, right? You now can go into your Leviathan story, your Tiamat story. If you understand that, remember I said in the beginning, they got their creation story from the Sumerian and the Babylonian myths. So I'm trying to show you this comes from ancient Sumerian and Babylonian myths. It's also connected to our occult left-hand path when we talk about the primordial beings, when we talk about Leviathan, right? It's talking about the spirit of that great dragon that moved across the face of the waters or the void and the deep. That great dragon called Leviathan, right? Which is connected to Tiamat, which is connected to the primordial chaotic energy, right? Let's continue. "And God said, let there be light, and there was light." Poof, puff the magic dragon, it just happened, right? According to them. "And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness." And here's the fairy tale. "And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day." Well, we know this is inaccurate. You want to know why? There's no such thing as day and night, right? You say, "Baniti, what are you talking about? You sound crazy." No, let's just use basic science. Remember I said you must use basic common sense. We learned in 4th grade earth science, right? We know the earth takes 24 hours to make a full turn on its axis, correct? Basic science. So if you are in Eastern Standard Time Zone currently at the moment, you are in what they call the darkness or the evening hours. It's not that the sun has disappeared or gone anywhere. The sun doesn't rise or set. Now, notice they're tricky. They say divided the darkness and the light, right? The sun doesn't set, it doesn't rise. It creates the illusion because as the earth revolves on its axis in a 24-hour period and it turns at one point in the day, depending on what time zone you're in, the earth is blocking out the light of the sun, creating the illusion of night hours. So we are always encased in this light, right? Which really emerges from the darkness, which gets into another science. So the earth has turned, made its full rotation, and now it is blocking out the light of the sun. What creates the illusion of a rising and setting is the earth obviously wobbles a bit on its axis, right? I hope everybody knows this, but I have to go over this, even though as basic as it may seem. So if you've ever viewed a sunset or a sun rising, right, as it's wobbling on its axis and turns, it creates this illusion that it's either coming up or setting, depending on where you're at, what time zone, and what you're viewing. So the sun never sets or rises. There's no division or separation between light and darkness. So whoever wrote this book here, right, doesn't have a basic understanding of science, right? And notice it's being told in a third person format. This is not God speaking. Who's speaking is the other question that we should be asking ourselves, because it's being narrated by a third party. I've heard everybody give whack. Oh, this is Moses because the Torah was given to him and he was writing that. There's no proof of that. I didn't ask to give me your opinion based on speculation who you think is speaking. It never gives you the answer of who's speaking. It's in the third party. We do know it's not God, though. That we can't confirm. So there's an inconsistency there, right? Then when you go back to 26, to show you that this is not the beginning, and get that out of, and then we can move on. We go to verse 27, chapter 1, verse 27. So God created man. In his own image, in the image of God created he him. Now watch what it says here. It gets confusing. Male and female created he them. Now remind you, according to religious theology, the creation of the female, Eve, doesn't come till chapter 2. But here in 1, it says there were a group of beings, multiple beings, male and female created here. Now watch what it says. Okay? And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it. That's the key word. Replenish the earth. Which again is confirmation that there was something already here. So this Genesis story in no way, shape, form, or fashion could be talking about, as religious people say, the beginning. Because in order to replenish something, as I said many times before, if I have water in this glass, it is empty. You use a very word that's similar if you're in a restaurant or home. Can you give me a refill? Or can you replenish my glass of water, right? Which is confirmation that there was something in this glass already. Replenishing it doesn't mean it's the beginning. So that statement, and the word in Hebrew is mole, if you look it up, to refill, right? So if they're replenishing something, they're leaving a clue, a tidbit in here, that this is not the beginning. Now, we do know, and you need to do this research on your own, there have been many times meteorites have struck this planet. We do know, scientists have confirmed, there have been many reconstruction periods. We do know our planet, our solar system, are nothing but dwarf stars that have exploded. Our sun, we know the sun is a star, right? We know planets are formed from stars collapsing, right? It's just basic science, right? And as things evolve and change, eventually our planet too will burn out, okay? This is just basic science. So we need to understand the basics of this so we're not getting spooked out, right? So we don't get caught up in this kindergarten ideology. So this is definitely not the beginning. This is, when you do your research, you can correlate this and come to this understanding on your own. You can correlate this to one of the many replenishing periods that have taken place on this planet, right? The question that also comes up is, how did dinosaurs become extinct? Well, there's a lot of theories out there. Scientists say from various meteorite showers that have hit the planet. Certain species became extinct and never evolved, but there's many clues you can research on your own to find out that the meteorites and a lot of the destructive things that have taken place on this planet over a long period of time were the cause of that, or one of the causes of that, right? So we need to establish now, so we can leave religion, this is not the beginning. This is just talking about one of the many replenishing periods
that have taken place on this earth, right? We can go back to the ice ages. We can go back to a lot of these stages in evolution of human beings, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that because I'm starting here and I'm going to take you back. We're going to go as far back as we can go to get a better understanding of this, okay? So we see this definitely cannot be the beginning. Let's get that established, right? I want to go into a section, okay? I want to go into a section in one of Credo Mutwa's book, The Origin of the Gods, right? Or how the gods came about. And if you're not familiar with Credo Mutwa, I would highly suggest you get his book. Now, he does talk about some things that could be off the cusp. When we get into the evolution of humans, the question is now, what are we? Why are there different races? Why are there different blood types? See, there are the powers that be that just classify this. We like to get caught up in this surface debate of who was first. We know who was first, right? If we even have to discuss that, it's ridiculous. We know ancient African civilization and the ancient, what they're calling, I don't even like to use that term because that's not the real term, but we know what they're calling Africa today. Civilization obviously began there. That's not rocket science. That's not saying anything nobody knows. But here's the deeper question. To debunk the theory that we're all equal and we're all the same, okay, is very simple to debunk. If we are, why do we all have different blood types? That's question number one. Where did all the different blood types come? Because if we all come from one common ancestor that religious people claim, or some people in general, Adam and Eve, right? Then we should all have the same blood type. So how did the mutations of the blood type come about? How do we all get A, B, O, O negative? There's even a blood type called Rh negative. The reason why it's called Rh negative is because scientists link that blood type back to an ancient primal monkey called the rhesus monkey, Rhesus. Go look it up. So if you have Rh negative, you've unlocked part of the origin of where you evolved. So let's look at some of the theories that are out there of how humans came into existence, okay? This is going to get a little dicey. And don't get personal. Don't come up in your feelings about it. Do your research. There are theories out there, whether we use Darwin's evolution, that we have, and there's partial truth to this, some have evolved from a very, very intelligent species of ape called the Lars monkey, Lars, right? Darwin believes one of his key points in his theory of evolution is that we evolved from these primal apes, right? Primordial is that word prime again. Then there in a lot of other cultures, and what I'm about to go in here, there are some who in ancient Egypt, whether it's the Odoad of ancient Egypt, whether it's the Dogon of Mali of West Africa that Credo Mutwa talks about a lot, some believe we were beings that emerged from water. And this is documented in certain cultures in history. The Dogons of Mali, West Africa, have it documented in their history. And again, do your research, okay? Do your research. And I'm going to go through some stuff. So some say we emerged as water beings from the water, right? And then there are others who say some of us came from beyond the stars, for a very simplistic lack of a better word. So which one is it? Are we beings that have emerged from the water? Well, let's look at that real quick. Let's talk about these three theories. And I'm going to give you your answer. And then we're going to go into some information for you to do further research. Okay? Well, first, let's examine. We live on a planet that is almost 70% water, right? I believe it's 67 or 68%, something to that regards. Don't quote me. I'm not claiming to know the exact, but it's close to 70%. Our body is composed of almost 70% water, correct? If we do not drink water, we can dehydrate and die, correct? If we are submerged in a body of water for a very long period of time, our skin starts to transform and almost looks amphibious or reptilian in nature, right? We lived in the womb of our mother in water for 9 months. You basically lived in a cocoon of water for 9 months before you were birthed into the universe. or you physically came into existence. You swam around in water literally for 9 months. If you don't get a certain level of moisture on your skin gets what? Ashy and scaly, right? Ashy and scaly, like same type of skin that amphibious or reptilian beings can get. So is there possibly some truth that we might be linked to having our point of origin? Okay? That there is an amphibious or reptilian aspect of our nature. Okay, they even call what part? There's a part of our brain they call the what? The mammalian or reptilian brain, right? And I want you to do your research, people. If you know what I'm talking about, you're in line, cool. If it's sparking your interest, cool. But if you're in your feelings about it, don't come to me with that bullshit because you're gonna get hurt. I want you to do your research on yourself. I'm putting this out there. We're gonna be talking about shit like this, okay? So there is some information that's there that we do have an aquatic nature to our existence. Are we living? Is the planet Earth a big aquarium? Because we are breathing in. What is oxygen? Somebody break down to me what oxygen is. What molecules make up oxygen? Yes, H2O, right? We know what it is. So are we breathing in water? Are we breathing in the X amount of water? Are we living really in an aquatic, aqua or aquatic environment? So there is some evidence to suggest that most definitely can be a possibility, right? So we have to use common sense, we have to use science, and we have to use reasoning. Because as I said before, not every answer you're going to find is in a book. Not every scholar is going to be able to authenticate the answers that you're looking for. You're going to have to use your own godlike quality and intelligence to come to these conclusions, right? Let's tackle the second theory. Now, well, let me back up too. When you go into ancient Egypt and you study the Ogdoads, right? Let's talk about that. Who are the Ogdoads? They're the water beings. Dr. Delbert Blair talked about this. Going years back before a lot of people even tackled this. He talked about the ziggurat, the step pyramids, how they had inscriptions on there of these reptilian-like Ogdoads, creatures that emerged from the waters. You can find this inscribed there. The Ogdoads were Nun, Nunet, Ki, Kiket. When you go into that pantheon of 8, right, who they say were the beings in the ancient Egyptian mythology that emerged from the waters, which goes back even again to what we were talking about in that Genesis story, Genesis 1:26, about the void and the deep, the waters of the void and the deep. Then you have to go back to Nun and the chaotic waters of Nun. And as I said, there's a connection with that aquatic existence or aqua or that water existence of ourselves, because that story is talking about when the sperm is ejaculated in a woman and those sperm cells are all racing to the ovum and only minimal survive and life is created. It's talking about that instance that takes place inside the womb of the female, right? Pay attention to this shit, okay? So there's the connection also with that in our aquatic nature. We can go to Tiamat. We can go to Leviathan. I could be here all day talking about it. I think you get the point. So there is some validity there that our origin could be that we did emerge from the waters and we are amphibious, reptilian type of beings. Credo Mutu, I talked about it, which I'm about. I didn't forget. There's a very short section I want to go into in there. All right. Let's move to our second theory, okay? Did we evolve from apes, right? There's some hardcore Darwin theorists that literally believe we are just an intelligent form of ape that has evolved from Cro-Magnus to primal different of stages of that evolution of ape, Cro-Magnon man, etc. There's truth to that. Right? We know that because we can look through history, archaeological findings, carbon and fossil dating, but blood type's going to play a key. I didn't forget the blood type. You got to bear with me because there's a lot to talk about this. There's a lot of shit. Probably can't get to it all in one night, but just bear with me. So we do see there is historical data to support, whether you go back to the Lars monkey, as I said before, there's people, humans, modern day humans who have Rh negative blood type. And the reason where they get the Rh from is the rhesus monkey. Look it up. You can find that out for yourself because that's confirmation you might have that blood, confirming part or your origin or existence. So long story short, there's theory to support that could be a fact. Then there are other different belief systems, theories, dogmas, and philosophies that suggest some of us descend from planets or from beyond the stars or other galaxies, right? How can we confirm that? Well, look, we know there's been over the years some valid and some bullshit and fake because some of it is government created. We know that there's been many signs of extraterrestrial visitation to this planet. There's many things that are inscribed when you look in some of the ancient Egyptian text, when you look in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. A lot of cultures always depict beings coming from beyond the stars to give communication, knowledge, wisdom, and guidance to certain cultures. The Dogon have that recorded, as I said earlier, in their history. The ancient Sumerians have it recorded in their history. When you look at some of the alignment of the ancient Sumerian deities, they are aligned with different planets and astrological signs. List goes on and on. We know the history worldwide, not just in the United States, with extraterrestrial phenomena, right? But anything that comes into our atmosphere from out of it is something extra that's terrestrial in origin. You understand? So it's tricky, it's dicey, because some of these so-called UFO sightings that people have claimed to see, some of those are man-made government crafts, that technology that our government is working on that's not known or released to the public, warplanes, fighter jets, right? If you go back and do your research, the stealth B-2 stealth bomber, that's something they were developing years ago, had it years ago before they released that information to the public. Now, this is a dicey subject because whether you get into the Roswell incident, Area 51, and all of those things, my take on it, I do believe there's some validity to it, but I do think there's some loopholes in it. I do think some of it is conspiracy theories that are created. So we have to be careful when we tread that fine line between, is it fact or fiction? Okay? So we have to look at all of these stuff to show all three major concepts show there is a possibility of validity. So now, and I'm gonna get to what I'm getting at. When we say our ancestors, this opens an interesting point. So the question is now, who really are your ancestors? Can I get an amen? Let me stop. I'm not talking about just your immediate bloodline ancestors, right? We all, for the most part, most of us who have been blessed and privileged to know maybe the first 4 or several generations of our genealogy. Of course, in your ancestral work, you are supposed to, the productive ones anyway, connect with your bloodline ancestors that are here for your spiritual growth. As I said before, not all your ancestors were productive, right? We don't pour libations out because we could have ancestors that were alcoholics and winos. So don't assume it's okay to pour. You could be creating a field of energy for that alcoholic or wino ancestral spirit to come drink. Some of your ancestors were criminals, murderers, rapists, drug addicts, killers. Okay, we don't want to address that shit. We act like every one of our ancestors is productive for us. That's not true. And if you work with me in the mentorship program, I show you the threefold process of addressing and working with your ancestors, which no traditional system shows you. Because they are pouring libation out for the ancestors, ashe, and all that religious traditional nonsense. No. We don't do that on this path. We're very particular and articulate of how we work with and address our ancestors. Because you could open yourself up to walk in possessions of these negative ancestral spirits that are trying to find a vessel to get back here. because they have an addiction or a compulsion that they can't leave, but they need a bloodline ancestor to, because when you're at that ancestral altar and you're doing your work, that crown chakra is lit up. When that crown is open, it is an opening to the vessel for any spirit to take seat or take as a host inside that individual. Okay? So you need to be cautious of that when you're doing your ancestral work. Look at your altar when you do spiritual work. Whether you're working the clip path, whether you're working with the primordial beings, gods, goddesses, demons, whatever it is you're working with. I don't care what it is. Look at your altar as a light, right? Not that artificial spooky light. I always use the metaphor of a pilot landing a plane late at night. It uses the guides of the lights on the runway. When you are at your altar activating, doing work, whether it's with your ancestors or otherwise, your crown chakra opens up and gives off a light. That's what these beings see, because they are beings of light and energy. They see you. This is why I keep telling people when you're working with spirit, stop trying to just think you're going to see some physical spooky image, right? People always talk about in their spiritual work, I see orbs of light. What are the orbs of light that I see sometimes when I'm doing my ritual work? Everybody talks about it. These little orbs of light that pop up everywhere. If you've ever taken pictures or filmed, you always can capture them. We've captured many of those over the years in rituals. You can see them in the light and the smoke. Well, these are these beings that I'm talking about, right? Because when a being truly evolves, it goes back into a state of light and energy, right? All of these, I don't care what pantheon you're working with. So it's very easy for that energy to take root seat in your crown chakra and use you as a host, or what we call as involuntary possession. And when you're weak, as we know, a host slowly can eat away at you and control your thoughts, control your emotions. This is why you sometimes might have felt like, why all of a sudden do I have these odd cravings for things I don't crave? Why all of a sudden am I doing things that I normally never do, et cetera, et cetera? Okay? Could be the reason. You might have opened yourself up to some walking spirits or energy. So now all your ancestors are here for your productive growth and evolution, and not all of them should you pour libations and give offerings to and welcome them to your ancestral work, okay? And I show people how to do this, okay? I show people the correct way to do this. This is why I can never relate to trickster spirits. People always talk about, this is trickster spirit, such and such, this and that. Well, if a trickster spirit took advantage of you, it's confirmation you need to go back and reevaluate. You're missing something. Now, in the spirit world, there's a thing called specters, right? You can look this up. Many different occult, esoterical books talk about it. S-P-E-C-T-R-E, specters. What are specters? I've talked about this on and off over the years. Specters are spirits that can read your subconscious mind. This is the origin of what trickster spirits are. And what do I mean by that? So you could be in meditation focusing on your grandmother. A specter, which can be one of those beings of light and energy, can manifest, read your subconscious mind, and see you're thinking about your grandmother. And by reading the data in your subconscious mind, it can now create the image, the holographic image or illusion, and take on the form of looking like your grandmother. And you could think it's your grandmother, okay? So this is how these specters or spirits that feed off of you find their ways to work in. How you prevent that is in that threefold process of addressing. Because when you line up your communion or your ritual work with your ancestors, and I say communion, gathering of the ancestors, you, in that threefold process, you shut the door to those that are not welcome. Okay? So this is how you can be a parasite and fed off of. Okay? So these are the things we need to be conscious and aware of when we're working with spirits and doing ancestral work, right? So you got to look at your altar as a beacon of light. That's how they can get in the crown, right? Because possession starts when the crown opens. And this is why I laugh when people always say, my crown chakra is open. I say, really? Okay. People just don't understand. Most of the time, they confuse their crown chakra being over with momentarily or moments or experiences with certain things for the moment. You won't trust me when I tell you, and I can't even put it into words. I'd be wasting my time. You will know when your crown chakra is fully open and you've had a spiritual experience. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's not, I think I had this happened, and I think it's this. No. That's not how it works. All right? So let's be clear on that. So the question lies. Did we emerge from the water? Do we come from beyond the stars? Did we evolve from apes? The answer is all of the above. The answer is all of the above. Okay? The question is, you need to come to the realization, which one are you? Now it takes on a whole different meaning. Who really are my ancestors? So you got to really do that research. So what I'm basically saying, not one particular one of those theories is the complete answer to that question. There's evidence to support that all three of them are possibilities. And I say possibilities because it only applies to those that come to the realization and understanding of that to themselves. Okay? The data supports it. Okay? This one just caught my eye. I'm going to go back to the questions. So it's just, no, it's not that you don't want to open the crown. You just need to be very conscious and aware of what you're doing when you open the crown. Let me give you an example. When you go into the Yoruba tradition, right, and I'm telling you this from being initiated in that years ago, they talk about the ashe that's put on the head, right? If anybody's that there's a term used in Santeria, modern day Ifa in the West, you become crowned with your orishi, right? And there's certain work that's done, this whole amira is prepared, your head is wrapped, and the ashe is put on the head by the crown. When a person is in Ifa, the term possessed or mounted by the spirit, it's put on the crown of the head of the individual. Because they say in Ifa, there's a spirit that rules the head, there's a male and female, and there's one that rules the body if you go through the crowning process. So this is how you know if some people really have been crowned. You ask them, who's your guardian Orisha? You can know who rules your head without being crowned. You can go to a Babalawo, right? And by the way, the correct way to do it is in front of 3 Babalawos. You shouldn't just do it with one, or you shouldn't just do it from a priest or priestess, a madrina. I'm saying if you're going the traditional route. But the point I'm trying to get at is they call it being crowned. Because at a tambor or a gathering of Orishi where they bring those aspects of the ashe of that Orishi down, and there are many paths. This is where people get confused. There's not one Oshun. There's many paths of Oshun. There's many paths of Obatala, etc. Each person who's crowned is given their specific path. So if there's a tambor or a gathering to bring the spirit, if that person is crowned and is at that gathering, that path of that person's Orishi is brought down in that ritual. So if it's somebody who's a certain path of Obatala, they are possessed or ridden by or mounted by Obatala, and it's done through the crown. But there's a way that it's done, right? So it's not that you don't want to open the crown. It's just you need to be very conscious and aware of what you're doing. I'm saying what I was saying with the ancestral thing, and then I'll finish on with this Credo Mutu, and I'll come back to the questions. It caught me out of I saw it out of the corner of my eye. What I am saying is sometimes you can involuntarily the crown can be open, and if you're not aware of what you're doing in certain work, spirits can take host when it's open. That's what I was saying. Okay, so it's definitely not that you shouldn't open the crown. You should just be very conscious and aware of what you're doing with it. All right. So I want to go into a short section here, and then I'll finish that. I'm going to go into your questions and comments because I see you guys got a lot of good stuff in there. I'll try my best to get to that because this is a broad topic. It's not something we can do in one night, be here all day. I told you, I'm going to show you, there's a lot. I got a whole list of shit that I'm going to run now through here on the channel. And if you came on late and you're seeing the topic and you're probably like, well, Baniti doesn't do topics like that. I haven't done topics like this in years, right? I want to reiterate to maybe people that came late, I'm going to be expanding the platform and the topics that I do on this channel. I'm going to be covering a wider range. I'm going to be covering occult, metaphysical, esoterical stuff, mystical stuff, ancient civilizations, in addition to the occult left-hand path. We will always touch on all that stuff. It's just some awareness that came to me. And again, I want to reiterate, if you came late, this was sparked based on one of my students in the mentorship program, she was the one, based on how I'm working with, she came with she came at me with 3 pages of questions for her work. And it was some really good stuff. And I told her in our conversation, I'm keeping her name neutral because she wants it neutral, that if I'm going to use this as a guideline and an outline, because and yes. So that's what I'm going to do. And it also was a aha moment for me, lack of a better word, gave me a little spark and a sense of realization that we need to take a lot of this information and incorporate it into what we do in the occult and the left-hand path, because it's going to help us understand or give us a broader understanding of these things. So I kind of had this aha moment and this spark that I need to broaden the platform of this channel, not to just limit it to just specific things, but we're going to expand. So if you came late, that's kind of where we're at. All right, so I want to finish with this short section, then I go out. There's a lot of questions I want to address there that you guys are sparking. 42 laws of Ma'at, demons, jazz. I see a lot of shit in there. And I want to get into emerald tablets. I want to get into all that stuff. Because for those that don't know, if you came across me in recent years, that's all the stuff I used to teach and do years back before I was into the occult heavy. Before I was really on this mainstream path of the occult left-hand path, I dealt with a lot of that stuff back in the 80s and 90s, very early 90s. All right. So this is a book by Credo Mutwa, right? It's called Mutwa, His Hidden History of the Reptilian Agenda, right? Now, Credo Mutwa is a very interesting individual. There's different perspectives on him. Some think he's a little out there. I don't really focus on that. I focus on the information. Now, there's another guy you probably all are very familiar with who basically got his information from Credo Mutwa, David Icke or Icky, I never know how to pronounce his name, which he's got a few good books that really are the root source of Credo Mutwa's work. The Reptilian Agenda, or the Children of the Matrix, which a lot of people are familiar with. I'm going to talk about some of that information in there. And David Icke, too, is a very interesting individual because he's taken a lot of information from a lot of these ancient cultures and civilizations, and there's some validity to it. But again, you make your conclusion. I'm not passing it off as gospel, right? All right, so there's just a couple of pages in here I want to run through that are very interesting, and it's going to give us some answers to what we're talking about here. And this is page 16, if you do have the book. In many Western countries, when an old person dies, it is simply the death of an old human being who has gone through life and whose days on earth are now come to an end. But in Africa, the death of an elder, an old man, an old woman becomes a supreme disaster, because in the mind of that elder often carries knowledge passed down from parent to child. Knowledge that is not only valuable to Africa and her children, but to humankind as a whole, right? No matter where you go in Africa, no matter how deep in the interior of the dark continent you tread, you will find very ancient stories which are incredibly similar. Again, so part of this, you have to use common sense, right? Just basic reasoning, right? And again, common sense and reasoning is just something not some individuals have. You always hear this term, let's try to reason this out, right? We use these terms, and you need common sense to be able to reason things out. And you have to learn in certain moments to suppress your ego, right? That's a bad part of your ego that we talk about on the left-hand path that you need to suppress. Because sometimes there's nothing wrong with saying you're wrong, okay? But sometimes we're too proud because we might have believed something for so many years and we're afraid to say, shit, I believed that shit for years, and guess what? No big deal. I was wrong. A lot of religious people who have tunnel vision can't do that because some have been programmed from a very early age of a childhood to the present moment. And it's tough to deprogram all that indoctrination, right? You will find African tribes and races who will tell you They are descendants from gods who came out of the skies thousands of years ago. Some, however, say that these gods came to them from the sea in magical boats. This is why I chose this, because in this short excerpt in this book by Credo Mutwa, he addresses that whole concept of, did we emerge from the sky? Did we evolve from animals? Or did we emerge from water? He touches on it in this brief section. Again, Dr. Delbert Blair, I'm going to be, addressing some of his teachings. And as I said, right before he passed, that last year he was alive. As I mentioned in the past, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of conversations with him and get kind of personal and close with him as a friend. We talked a lot on the phone. And one thing I learned about Dr. Delbert Blair, who he believes, and we used to talk about this all the time. I can't confirm it, but he believes wholeheartedly that he was abducted. He believes he was in communication with these gods beyond the stars, that he received a lot of knowledge. Now, I can't confirm that he had these experiences, but I can confirm there's some validity to it, because there's stuff he broke down that he had to have access to something outside of mainstream, his works. So I based on what is he saying, what are his works producing that is showing that there's some validity to that being true. And in my opinion, and in my personal dealing with him, he showed me things to show that is a possibility and a reality, right? So I was privileged to have a lot of conversations with him about stuff like this. And obviously we used to talk a lot of hockey, which a lot of people may or may not have known. He was a huge hockey fan, and most people didn't know that. But anyway, outside of that, Credo talks about these three aspects we just addressed, right? So some, however, say that these gods came to them from the sea in magical boats made out of reeds or wood or copper or even gold. In some cases, these gods and goddesses are described as beautiful human beings whose skins were either bright blue or green or even silver. Now, let's stop there. What the fuck is that talking about? Little green men. No. If you look at some of the depictions, for an example, in Egypt, some of the drawings of Osiris or Usir depict him as being green. Why? Right? There's a lot of theories out there that some of the first bands that came here had a greenish, bluish color. You can go into the Dravidians and some of the ancient Hindu texts, right? And you can see these depictions of these colors, because they believe that some of these bands that came, quote unquote, from beyond the stars had that type of skin color or hue, right, to their tongue. But you could see it. I'll go to something that everybody's familiar with. You can pull up some depictions of Osir or Osiris with a green skin tone, right, to kind of confirm what Credo Mutwa is saying here, right? And again, I want you to do this research on your own. I'm going over it. I'm going to tell you what I'm presenting it to you as what's there. I'm not presenting it to you saying that I accept everything or believe everything. I'm just putting the information all out there. I'm giving you all, I'm giving you the recipe. I want you to come to the understanding, your own understanding, not being influenced by me or anybody else, not by somebody telling you, don't believe this, don't believe that. I want you to come to the understanding of it for yourself, okay? All right, let's continue. So blue or green, but most of the time you will find it being said that these great gods, especially the ones that came out of the sky, were non-human, scaly creatures, which live most of the time in mud. Live most of the time in mud or in water, creatures of an extremely frightened and hideously ugly appearance. Some say that these creatures were like crocodiles with crocodile-like teeth and jaws. You could Apophis, right? In ancient Egypt, you see the depictions of that described. There's an aspect of Apophis or a pep drawn like that. So there's a lot of clues that there is some validity to this, right? Dr. Delbert Blair talked about various different reptilian-like species that is describing here in Credo Mutwa's book. All right. With crocodile-like teeth and jaws, but with very large round heads. Some say that these creatures are very tall beings with snake-like heads, set on long, thin necks, very long arms, and very long legs. You ever see some people have the long neck and the slope, that slope flat part in the back of their head? When you look at them from the side, it almost looks like one of these amphibious reptilian type of creatures. I know that shit sounds crazy, right? But this is, people have talked about this over the years, all right? Some say that these creatures are very tall beings with snake-like heads, set on long, thin necks, very long arms, and very long legs. There are those that tell us that these gods who came from the skies traveled through the land in magical boats made of bright metal, silver, copper, or gold, boats which had the ability to sail over water or even to fly through the sky like birds. The Menjet of Ra or Re. We see this told in many different stories, in many different cultures, right? Let's keep going. It is further said that some of these sky gods carried their souls in little bags, which hung from their belts. These souls being in the form of spears of crystals, clear material, spears which could float about in the air, orbs, right? Everybody talks about seeing these orbs of light. I'm trying to show you, because I get this question all the time. He's explaining. How do they manifest here? They come from an energy. They always come first from this state of energy or crystallized energy or light, right? And then they personify, sometimes take on human form. So if some of us are direct descendants and they are our ancestors or our ancestral parents, we too have that ability, right? We talk about a lot of this in our work, right? But I'm going to come back to that, all right? Spears which could float about in the air and which emitted a dazzling light, a light which could illuminate an entire village at night. We are told that some very brave African chiefs used to hold these great gods hostage simply by snatching their little shiny soul globes away from them and hiding them in the holes deep in the ground. This is in the mythology, right? Throughout Africa, we are told that these mysterious beings taught human beings many things. They taught human beings how to have laws, knowledge of herbal medicine, knowledge of arts, knowledge of the mysteries of creation and the cosmos as a whole. I'm going to get to the Dogon when he gets to it. We are told that some of these gods had the ability to change their shapes at will. Some people talk about shape-shifting, right? We have that lycanthropy in our path, right? Shape-shifting in our ritual work. I just did a working, have 2 days left with Hecate. Hecate is known to have the ability to shape-shift. She comes from that lines of primordial beings, right? So do some of these spirits, demons, gods, and goddesses have the ability to shape-shift? Most definitely. Movies have been depicting this shit for years. The Awakening, right? With, what was that? Charlie Sheen, I think, was in that. Remember the little boy who he was that reptilian type of creature whose legs shifted back when he shaped. I mean, where do they get this information from? Where do these movie creators come up with this stuff, right? You need to pay attention to a lot of it because sometimes these movies tell them themselves, right? All right, let's continue. They had the ability to assume the shape and the appearance of any creature that there is on earth whenever they had good reason to do so. A sky god could even turn itself into a rhinoceros, an elephant, or even a stork. A sky god could even turn itself into a rock or even a tree. Now, to all you tree huggers out there who sense that life and energy in trees, right? We joke about the tree huggers, right? Well, there's a process called photosynthesis, right? And we know we need shrubbery and greenery on this planet to keep that natural process in order, right? Because through the process of photosynthesis, it balances out the ecological system on the planet Earth, right? And it also balances out the connection between the micro and the macrocosm, the creation between humans and the science and the creation aspect. The more that becomes thrown off, the more we become disconnected Because the more we become disconnected from nature and creation, the more we become disconnected from our true self. So this is why there's this agenda going on right now. And I want to get into all the politics and the political conspiracy theories and all that shit. But there's a concentrated effort to take you away from that knowledge of mastering yourself. Okay? All right, let's continue. Just want to get through the rest of this, and then I'll go through your questions. Okay? We are told that some of the gods used to travel through the sky in swings made out of brightly colored lengths of rope. This is mythology now. The Wutwa people of the forests of the Congo told me about one such god who swung through the sky on a swing whose ends were attached to the clouds in the sky and who could go anywhere no matter how far away and come back before sunset on his magical swing. This is all metaphorical. In Africa, these mystery gods are known by various names. In West Africa, in the land of the Bambara people, these amphibian or reptilian sky gods are known as the Zishwizi. The word Zishwizi means either the swimmers or the divers or the gliders. It is said that these sky gods could dive from above the clouds down to the top of a mountain whenever they felt like it. They could also take deep dives into the bottom of the ocean and from there fetch magical objects and bring them to the shore, placing them at the feet of the astonished black people. In West Africa, again, the creatures are called the Asa, which means the mighty ones of magic. The Asa means what? The mighty ones of magic. Are there a connection? I'm not going to get into that tonight. Are there a connection to some of these primordial gods and goddesses that we work with in the clip art that's connected to what this is describing here? Is that a possibility? Could be. Could be. Okay? I say could be because you need to come to that conclusion. I'm not going to give you that. All right? So it's from this word Asa, a word that speaks great magical power, that comes the name Asante, which means a king, but literally means the child of Asan. As you know, Asante gave birth to the word Ashanti. In the land of the Dogon people, we find the famous Nomo, Nommo. That is where it gets good. A race of reptilian or amphibian beings who are said to have come back from the Sirius star, or Sirius star, depending on how you pronounce it, to give knowledge and religion to the black people of the Dogon. Incidentally, scientists have never explained the meaning of the Dogon. It means God Almighty. And the Dogon people know themselves as the children of God Almighty. These are the tribes in various parts of Africa which regard themselves as God's chosen people. These tribes call themselves by name, which means God. In South Africa, there's a tribe that calls itself the Tanga, and another very large group which calls itself the Tsanga, right? But let me stop there with the Dogon real quick. Do this research on your own, okay? In the Dogon culture, they have recorded in their stories, just like Credo Mutwa is talking about here in his book, that these sky gods who merged or took residence in the deep aspect of the ocean. I'm telling you what's recorded in their stories, so I want to be clear on that. It's not me saying this. It's said in their stories that these beings came from the deep depths of the ocean to the surface. And in their stories, it says they copulated and bred with the woman of the Dogon tribe, produced children with them. In exchange, they would teach these Dogon people, is what Credo Mutwa describes here. The mysteries of creation, science, the universe, all of these different things. So it was kind of a pact and agreement that they took with these quote unquote beings that came from beyond the stars, right? As it's recorded in their stories. Now, you could pull up images on the internet from the inbreeding or the mixing with these people, or these reptilian type of beings that it's talking about here in his book. And you can pull this up on the internet. There are some people they have these large foots that look like webs, right? And there's pictures of it. Whether it's real or not, you draw that conclusion, right? They call them the ostrich people because their foot look like big webs. And you pull the pictures up, you'll see. So some claim that's from the interbreeding or mixing with these bands, literally, right? They have a right every year. They have a right every 60 years they reenact to commemorate this. It's called the Baldo Rite, Baldo, Baldo Rite, where they have this elaborate ritual and ceremony acknowledging this whole thing that they have recorded in their history. It's a very elaborate ritual and ceremony acknowledging the emergence from these bands from the water and their connection with these bands as described here. And this is in their practices, their spirituality, their history, and written in their books and in their culture. You make the decision on that. So let me continue. And in Zimbabwe, there are two tribes, one of which is called the Batanga and another that is called the Tangalia. The name Tonga or Sangha or Danga means people of God. And you will find these people living in some of the holiest and most spiritual places in Africa. There's another tribe called the Dangalawe, right? Or the Handandawa tribe, who they claim to be the original tribe of Judah, right? And they reside in Ethiopia. And they believe, or they have said that they have and guard with their life the Ark of the Covenant in a temple that they protect day and night. They've done specials on this on the History Channel. And again, I'm putting the information out there. You draw those conclusions. I'm going to present to you what's out there. You must come to the conclusion if you want to accept it as reality or not. I am not presented it as 100% fact. But the Dangala or the Handawe or the Falashans, there's a link between all of them. The Falashans of Ethiopia claim to be the direct bloodline remnant of the tribe of Judah. I'm not talking about the Black Hebrew Israelites who stand on a corner and say the Haitians are the tribe of Judah, and they come up with all this crazy theories. No, we're talking about they have relics, they have documents that they guard with their life, right? And it's said that they will go to any lengths to protect that, right? There's another group of people in that part of Africa called the Fuzzy Wuzzy tribe. Those are the Handandawas I mentioned earlier. And they're very primitive people who live isolated. They live in nature. They practice very strict ancient Hebraic laws, but they live a very primitive lifestyle. They don't deal with technology. It's recorded that people only see them in mainstream parts of the city or those parts of Africa when they need to buy goods and things of that nature. And if you pull pictures of them up on them, you see they have these very fuzzy, like big froze, right? Because they believed that by growing their hair was their strength, right? Is there a connection that with Samson? Yes. But they believed, like the Nazarites, when you read in the Bible, they believed their hair was their strength. And the word Utopian or Ethiopians, right? Where they get that term was the reason why the Fuzzy Wuzzies or the Hanandawa didn't cut their hair, because they believed those were literally antennas that kept the fire burning within them, which was the root here in the solar plexus, because they believed that their hair absorbed the energy of the sun and kept this region charged, so they didn't cut their hair. They kept it in a natural state. Now, there's a connection to that more esoterically when you go into the Levite tribes, and I know I'm everywhere tonight because there's a lot. When you go into the Levite tribe and you look at when there's a very scientific, technical definition of the attire that a Levite priest would have to go into the Ark of the Tabernacle in order, what happened? Some frozen. Oh, there we go. He would have to, the Levitical priest would have to wear a certain attire to administer into the Holy of Holies. And if you look at it, it was almost like they were conductors to make energy or the current of energy flow through smoothly so they didn't get electrocuted, because they were dealing with a serious force or power of energy. Now, Raiders of the Lost Ark tried to show that, right? If you saw Radio Indiana Jones and all that shit, they showed what happened when those who approached that power incorrectly. So why was it that they had to go in there dressed a certain way? They had to have certain elements, certain metals, certain fringes, certain things on their attire in order to administer in the Holy of Holies, right? I'm going to get into that when I do a whole thing on, was the Exodus real? Was the story of Moses and the parting of the Red Sea real? Were there actually people called Israelites that resided in Egypt for 430 years? I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get into that now, but we'll get into that another time. All right. So let me finish with this. Almost there. So, for example, the Matanga people of northern Zululand live in the area of the sacred Saint Lucia Lake, which is believed by the Zulu people and other tribes in Natal to be the place where hundreds of years ago the great Earth Mother arrived in a boat of reeds, accompanied by her son and his 2 wives. And she came to give laws, culture, religion, as well as healing arts and other mysteries to human beings. It is said that the great Earth Mother was a huge woman, very, very fat, with bright green skin, and so was her son and his 2 wives. There once existed in Zimbabwe a very sacred place called Kariba Gorge, which is now covered by a huge lake as a result of the damming of the Zambezi River at the place. In Kariba Gorge, there lived 2 remarkable tribes, the Batanga, which means people of God, and the more remarkable tribe whose name is the Tangalia. Tanga, as you know, means God, but the word Ila also means God. Thus, the Tangala people are called the people of God, Ila, the wise old God. And the last section here, and then I'm done. According to some stories, created the earth. Now, it's interesting. Let me stop for a second, because every culture has a concept of the creation story. They all talk about beings coming from the sky, right? Whether you read the story, the Pataki of the Orishi, it talks about the pantheon from Olorun or Orula on down to Obatala, and how Obatala came down to the so-called earth with the assistance of all these other Orishi who served an aspect of creation, etc., and gets into the whole mythology of how it was created. Egypt has their own version of it. The Dravidians, or the ancient Hindu culture, has their version of it. The ancient Sumerians or Babylonians have their version of it. The Tibetans have their version of it. The Aztecs and the Mayan cultures, they have their version of it, right? I could be here all night. But what you need to look at when you're reading them stories is the synchronization of some of the similarities. The variances and the differences are going to be in the culture and the language, and how those cultural practices and rites and rituals were adopted according to that person's ethnicity, upbringing, culture, and historical relevance as a people. That's where the differences come in. But look for the synchronicity of the similarities. That's what you want to look for to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together. And I'm comfortable in my own understanding of it. I'm not trying to convince people of anything. So that's personal to me, but I'm very comfortable in my understanding and origin of it. Do I agree with all of this stuff? No, because I can't confirm all of this stuff. So absolutely not. Do I agree with all of it? Absolutely not. Do I believe there's some relevance and some validity in a lot of it? Most definitely. All right. All right. All right, where are we at here? Okay. According to some stories, that they created the earth and everything in it. The Tonga and the Tangalia used to tell me that not only are the chosen people sent by God to guard the Kariba Gorge, but they were also in yearly touch with the great gods who came from the stars, whom they call the Banalia, the children of Ila. Now let us go to West Africa for a while in the land of the Dogon. There one is told that when the Nomo arrived from the sky in their fantastic sky ship, there were several of them, 13 or 14 of them. And they created a lake around their sky ship, and every morning they used to swim from the sky ship to the shores of the lake and there preach to the people who assembled in large numbers around the lake. It is said that before the Nomo departed, returning with a great noise back to their home, they first chose one of their number, killed it, and cut its body up into little pieces, and then gave these pieces to the assembled people to eat in the first sacrificial ritual of its kind on this earth. When the people had eaten the first sacrificial ritual of its kind on earth, or the sacred flesh of the star creature and drunk its blood and mixed with water, the normal took the lower jaw of their creature and by some incredible fact of magic brought the whole creature back to life again. So now we're seeing the interbreeding and the intermixing that they have recorded in their story, right? We are told that this is the way the normals taught our people, and that there is no death, and that behind every death there shall be a resurrection. Sound familiar? Now, when we go into the occult, the left-hand path, why such a strong connection with the dragon, the serpent, the snake, the reptilian, the Kundalini? Is there, let's look deeper in this for ourselves as occultist left-hand path practitioners. Is there a connection with this understanding in our work with klepothic beings? Why such a strong connection and presence and energy of the dragon, of the Kundalini, of the serpent, of the snake? Why such a strong influence of Leviathan, the sea creatures? This is all encoded. Why do we have a system called draconian magic, right? And it's telling you these nomos or reptilian amphibious type of beings were magicians, okay? Because they've used a lot of these magical practices. What you just read there was a high form of blood sorcery, right? But it gets into something else. I know this is a lot, but just follow me. Take this journey with me. Be patient, because it's a lot, all right? So behind every death there shall be a resurrection, right? Isn't that what the Egyptians taught? Eternal life? Isn't what we really come to the understanding in our ritual work that death is just the doorway to the beginning of eternity? What we know is physical death is just a very mere baby step to immortality, okay? All right, I have 3 more short paragraphs and I'm done. And also that an individual must sometimes sacrifice himself or herself for the good of the community. It is the normal, we are told, that taught the people of Africa about the mysteries of reincarnation, about the belief that which goes away, gone off on the wings of death, will always come back, again on the fragrant wings of life. In the land of Nigeria, we hear of how the great mother goddess Maui gave birth to human beings after having created the world, and that after a number of centuries, people on earth became filled with selfishness and other forms of negative behavior, and the great mother, who is now in the land of the gods, sent down her daughter, Gabato, to earth to once more place human beings on the path of righteousness. So there's that same theme of guidance, beings coming from the stars, being taught the sacred mysteries, given that knowledge, information, and guidance. It's no different when we're working with Lilith, Samael, Lucifer. We're working with beings of a higher intelligence that we access via our subconscious mind. Via what? We have to use a portion of that mammalian or reptilian brain. There's something called the dark star chakra that I haven't really elaborated on. And it's a chakra. There are chakras that are not connected to you physically, right? There are some chakras that you access that are outside of the body. I know that sounds crazy. I'm not going to get into that now, but that exists, right? It exists for me. It may not exist for others, but I know it's real based on my experiences. And I'm not telling anybody to accept that reality until they have that same or similar experience, okay? It is said that Gabito arrived on earth in the mouth of the great serpent with all the colors of the rainbow. Now we see Dambella. If you're familiar with Dambella we do in Voodoo or Voodoo, we see a connection there with the snake, the serpent, right? We see, even if you go over into Brazil, right, in their practices of their similarities with Ifa or their Ifa traditions, Candomblé, as they call it in Brazil, we see that's how you look at Olorun or Orula is depicted, right? This is facts. So we see the connections. That's what you got to look for here, right? And this serpent crawled all over the earth, and such was its size and so great was its weight that wherever it went, it created gorges and valleys and canyons. what I found very astonishing was that in many countries of the world, amongst the Aborigines of Australia and amongst all the native people of the Americas, as in Africa, you find belief in the rainbow serpent. And you also find belief in the feathered serpent, especially amongst a lot of Native American tribes, right? In the Americas, in the South and Central America, mostly the feathered serpent is called Quetzalcoatl, right? And amongst my people, the Zulus, we find belief in a serpent called Yendenlandolo. And Yendenlandolo is said that be a huge mamba or a huge python, right? What did Kobe Bryant had a philosophy called Black Mamba. I'm just saying, people, it's all there, right? It's all there, okay? Did Kobe come up with the Black Mamba concept? Was it connected to this? Was Kobe tapped into some ancient Zulu African science? I don't know. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. Some say that there's no such thing as a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. Just saying. Just putting it out there, food for thought, right? A huge mamba or huge python whose neck is covered in grayish blue feathers like the feathers of a blue crane. And at the top of the serpent's head grow 3 feathers, one green, one red, one white, which look like huge ostrich tail feathers. The Yenodolo, like the South American Quetzalcoatl, is associated with God the Son. All right, I'm going to stop there with the stuff from the book. What I am going to do now, because I know there's some good stuff in the chat, I'll try to the best of my ability. I will go through some of the questions in the chat. Give me 1 second. I just want to step away, grab another water, and I will be right back. Give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. And if you have questions, now's the time to get them in. I will try my best to get to most of them. I don't, time-wise, I may not be able to get to all of them, okay? Be right back. All right. All right, so let's see what we can get into. All right, I see some of your questions on Instagram. I will try to go over. So I see this first one where we were talking about the Levitical priesthood earlier. Yes, that's why the Levitical priesthood, or those that went into the Holy of Holies, wore that breastplate, because it was made of certain metals, which were conductors to facilitate that energy, most definitely. That's what I was talking about earlier. I saw that question out the corner of my eye. All right, let me come up here. Let's see what we got. How do I come up? Bear with me, man. It's the first time I'm using this shit. Uh-oh, what did I do? Oh, man. What the heck? Okay, there we go. How do you bring this up? Okay, here we go. Getting familiar with this here. Hold on. This is bad. This is what I don't like about it. Hold on. Shit. All right. Let me go. I'll have to come on here. It's not working. You know what? Let me come on this. This will be better. Hold on. I can look at it through this way. Bear with me. I'm going to pull up here because it's
Not rolling good on there. Hold on. All right. Hang tight. Let me come on here real quick. All right. Hold on. All right, here we go. All right, so let me see some of the questions. I'm going to go up to the top. There's got to be a way to do it from here. Hold on. It's be easier to do it from here. Hold on. Yeah. I got to check this because this might be running. Okay, here we go. It's getting there. Hang tight. I think I got it. Hold on. All right, so yeah, let me start from here. I think I got it from here. It's working now. All right, so this was a question earlier from Logan Scott. I'm going way up to the top here. All right, I was thinking the other day how in West African spiritual traditions, they give water, rum, etc. as offerings. Is it possible to offer one's anger, rage, or maybe even sorrow? Is this dangerous to do? To give you the short answer to that, it just depends on the spirit that you're working with and what type of offering you're directing towards that spirit. It can be dangerous if you're giving that anger, that rage, or a particular offering that could fuel and fire that rage, right? So yes, there could be some validity to that. All right, hold on, where are we at here? Let's see if I can get this to the top. Hold on. I'd rather get it from up here if I could. Hang tight. I'm almost there. Again, this is my first time working with this. So you got to bear with me. It's brand new. I know this shouldn't be run like that. All right. It's not giving me the whole thing, but hold on. Hang tight. Learning curves. There's got to be a way. I'm doing something wrong but my chat is moving like super fucking slow. All right. I'm just going to roll with here. So I may not have seen some of the earlier ones. Okay, wait, we're getting there. Okay, here we go. All right, yeah, all right. So I saw some earlier questions, people asking about, this thing, I can't do it from there. Yes, I know some people were asking earlier, I think it was James, it just popped up, somebody named James or something like that. Yes, I still do readings if you came on late. The information is right in the description box, how to reach out to me, contact the email, and I'll send you a full price list. All right, I'm going to go with this here I have to use the YouTube chat. There's some stuff here that's not showing up here. Again, this is my first night using this thing. I'll get better at it. So I'm going to start here. So I might not have saw some of the earlier stuff. All right, so somebody had asked earlier, can a person sell their soul, both verbally or by soul contract? This was from Roveria or Rovix, if I'm saying your name right. Yes, true. Also, I have a good question. I don't understand. All right, I'll get to that one first.
Sell your soul is a term where you might have to give of yourself for something, right? You'll see this term a lot in the occult, the left-hand path, in dark magic or sorcery. In ritual, is there stuff recorded where you can do pacts with certain spirits to do that? Yes, and you can obviously quote unquote the phrase "sell your soul" if you don't know what you're doing. What does that mean? It means you have created a pact, which I don't recommend you do, where you're at the mercy or service of that particular spirit or demon, right? You got to be careful. Now that you hear that term, that too can get a little extreme or spooked out, right? But can that be done through ritual and pacts? Does that such thing exist? Yeah, but there's a little more of a deeper meaning to it. Like we even hear it in modern day terms in religion. Can you sell your soul to the devil, right? It just means, and this is what, when you work with the dark arts too, remember, nothing is free. It really is simplified along the lines, you will have to give something of yourself, especially if it's being done for very personal reasons, right? So even though you might, quote unquote, go into a pact to do something like that, you still have the ability, quote unquote, to get it back, right? And that's a whole nother process. But yes, when you use the term soul contract or pact, it can be done. But in order for any work like that to be successful, one must have a true, genuine connection with that spirit. Can't be done. You might, there's some people, you might create some type of pact or contract like that and think in your mind you did something, and you could have absolutely completely nothing, right? So as long as the connection is genuine and real and you can confirm it, yes, that can happen, most definitely. Then the second question you asked is a good question. You don't understand the head animal of Set, and that's the whole purpose. Set is called the god of confusion, not because he creates confusion or chaos. He makes order out of it. People get it twisted. They say Set is so negative. No, Set is the god of confusion because he makes order out of chaos. It doesn't mean he is confusion. Now, the reason why there's many theories, and nobody can fully come to the conclusion of what kind of animal that is. There's theories. Is it a dog? Is it some form of a beast, a jackal? Does it have the snout of a boar or a pig? Nobody can fully identify. Even the appearance of the animal mask that Set wears is very confusing. And there's a reason for that. There's theories of what it is, but nobody can come to the 100% conclusion of what it is, which is all in line with his archetype and what he represents, right? He is one of the uniquest god in ancient Egypt. He's unique on many levels, right? So that's the reason for that, okay? HHGHG. I'm just going to call you HG for short. I've heard the clip path is blasphemous to demons because they are supposed to be our friends. See, when you're making a statement like that, I don't know where you heard it. And then wherever you heard it, whether it was from somebody, whether you read it in a book, whether you saw it on YouTube, you need to find out the origin of that person's thinking. Where are they getting that from? Where is that knowledge or that teaching coming from? Were they influenced by something else? When we hear a lot of speculation or we hear different theories, we need to understand who the person is that's saying it. What's their background? What have they been influenced by? And that could tell a large part of why you heard that statement. Now, I can only tell you my thoughts on it. So having said that, I said that to say this. That's complete utter nonsense. I think that's somebody's personal opinion and perspective based on their understanding. All right. The clip path is not blasphemous. It's the antithesis or the opposite to the Kabbalistic tree. It gives one the ability to understand, for lack of a better word, going to the spiritual realm or the void, the abyss, the other side, through the Sitra Akra, as they say, right? So it's the antithesis to the Kabbalistic tree of the tree of life, because it deals with the other side. When one makes the transition, when one goes into the highest form or state of consciousness or awareness they can go into. So I don't really see why the term blasphemous. Now we have to be careful with that, because that could be in a religious context. When the person's saying blasphemous, what do they mean? Because a religious person could say everything we're talking about tonight is blasphemous. Why? Blasphemous in the sense it's against their ideology and their faith belief system. So is the person saying it's blasphemous because it's against what they believe it is? So I'm saying all that. This is why we have to be critical thinkers on this path. That's how I analyze and break shit down. So when I hear a statement like that, that's how I'm going to break it down. But I'm in total disagreement with that. I wouldn't say it's blasphemous at all. All right. What else we got? HGG says, clipboard seems like Jewish fish. I don't know what the hell that is. All right. Yes, and Young Finest. Again, any of these questions, if somebody said you can or you cannot sell your soul, that's their personal understanding of it. There are pacts where you can, or allegedly is believed that you can. Me personally, I wouldn't fuck with any of that stuff. I don't bother with any of that stuff, because your soul is the very essence of your divinity. Why would you submit and surrender that to anything? That's my perspective and take on it. So there's going to be people out there who say you can sell your soul, and there might be people out there say you can't. Is there rituals and is there alleged things that exist that say you can? Yes. But you got to come to again, those are certain things you need to come to the understanding of. I can't give you the answer to that. Can you make pacts to sell your soul to certain spirits? Allegedly, yes. And notice I put the word allegedly there. So the people are going to have their own perspectives on that, right? What else do we have? I've never heard when you say how does a demon collect? See, this is all mythology. A demon collects a soul based on what? Selling it to the demon. So can a demon just unwillingly come in and take your soul? No, but can it lay host within you and control you to a certain aspect? Most definitely. That's what involuntary possession is, where a spirit or a demon can use you as a host, and it could feed off your very essence. Right? I don't know if that's completely the demon snatching or taking your soul. Again, a lot of that's going to be based on theory, perspective, and understanding based on that individual's knowledge on the subject matter, right? It just depends on how you want to look at that. But when it comes to any of those things, as far as my perspective on that, I'm not selling my soul to anything, and ain't nobody have the ability to take my soul. Okay. I'm in full control of that. Okay. And if something happens where I put myself in a situation, it's because of my damn stupidity, not because some outside external force had the ability to do it. Okay. What else? Okay. Here we go. Yes, depending on the spirits you are working with, you'll come in contact with them in the astral world, but that's all I know, right? That's the other thing, your connection with the spirit. That's why I was saying earlier that when it comes to things like this, if for some of these things to manifest and take place, it all depends on your genuine connection with the spirit and your relationship you've established with some of these entities / spirits, archetypes, gods, or goddesses, right? And not everybody's connection is going to be the same. Remember, I've said before, and stay focused on this point, it's the spirits are looking for a certain level of intelligence that you establish with in relationship to your connection with them. So if you feel like you're inferior to them and you approach them from more of a worship perspective, some of them can use that to their advantage. Don't come with this, all these spirits are my friend type shit. Because remember, there's nothing free. There's always taking, giving, and receiving going on simultaneously. So some people let their guard down and they think that everything is buddy-buddy. That's not how this works in some areas, okay? What else we got? Oh, this is a good question. And earlier by Young Finest, depending on the spirits you're working with. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just did that. Where is it? Damn, where is that? I just saw it. Skip. Yeah, okay. So third, I don't know if it's I Awakening. Who's the us and them that's doing the creating, right? That's the whole point. That's why we're going over this. That's the question we're posing to the people that have these concepts, especially religious people. In the Bible, who's the we, the them? And who, for example, in that Genesis story, who is God talking to in that chapter? If according to religious theology, nobody was created yet, if you believe Adam and Eve were the first people created on the planet Earth, who was the he, them, and we he was talking to in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26? Exactly, that's our point. Now, as far as overall, when we talk about, that's the question. How do these so-called beings evolve? If we're talking about there are some of these intelligent beings that evolve from beyond the stars and come from different planets in the skies, right? Who are some of these other beings that people have recorded and have come into contact and connection with in their culture that's recorded in their history? And how did they evolve and come about? Well, that's the great answer we're trying to seek by uncovering the steps that lead to that. But I can tell you the true answer to that is going to be in your personal work. Because the only thing myself could do as a whole, I can share personal experiences, but I don't do that because that's personal. It's subjective in nature. It'd be a waste of time for me to tell you or try to convince you of things that I experienced to somebody else. That's why I don't get on here and give personal testimonies and try to get people to co-sign. You get the answer to that, and you come to the realization of the clarity of that through your spiritual work, through your meditations, your ritual work, right? Through your connection through the astral plane, right? You'll see, because the key, part of the key, when I said that these so-called we and them, or these beings that we're talking about, they are beings of lighting energy, and there is an evolving process how they take form from energy, from ether or energy into physical form. There's a whole nother science to that, which you too have that same ability. So when we talk about everything manifested from this quote unquote energy, right? If everything is energy to a certain degree, or existence itself is energy to be, when they say existence, right? There's a connection to part of the understanding of that question, who the we, they, and them, and how they emerged. We do know, though, what it's not. There wasn't one spooky being that said, poof, snack, crackle, pop, puff the magic dragon, and everything just appeared. Because we see that this so-called God was tired and had to rest on the seventh day, which is really ridiculous to me. And it took 7 days. It didn't take, if he was all-powerful, all-knowing, omnipresent, and omnipotent, it wouldn't have took 7 days. Because that concept that Christians have built up around this biblical God, he should just be able to go, poof, and it's all there. So we're trying first to establish what it's not, so the individual through their work can get to the conclusion to what it actually is. And that's going to be a different journey for everybody. See, we're trying to get the answers to a question like that being confounded by three-dimensional existence, person, place, or thing. How can one answer that without some connection not to person, place, or thing, when the answer to that is beyond person, place, and thing? So the only way you're going to come to the conclusion of who they and when is you're going to have to do through your ritual work when you vibrate outside of person, place, and thing from the fourth dimension on. When you leave this physical vessel, either through an out-of-body experience, astral travel, etc., those mysteries are opened to you. That's the best way I could explain. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit, make up stories, because that would just be speculation and theory. So the goal is to work towards that understanding, right? Because nobody could explain that legitimately and honestly be able to say this is the 100% equivocal answer to that question. They'd be bullshitting you, so I wouldn't do that to you. So hopefully that helps. All right. Yes, the movie I was talking about earlier was Charlie Sheen, The Arrival. With that huge black sphere where the kids shapeshift. Again, there's always been, Hollywood has tried to show this. There's always been so many things out there to show there are other intelligent beings, different type of beings and species out there. Do your research. It's the best I could tell you. But that was the movie I wasn't sure. I thought I had the right name. And I guess I did. Yes, I, self-lord and master, take your shoes off and walk barefoot in the grass. To get grounded, especially if you take a long trip, you go out of state, out of country, and you're gone for a while, sometimes the body can become out of sync. This happened to me years ago. Sometimes the body can become out of alignment in sync with its natural magnetic energy grid inside the body, right? And a good practice to do, especially when you return home, because remember, when you live in a certain geographical area, your body aligns to the energy grid in that area. It aligns to the certain climate in that area. And when you leave your natural habitat, right, just like any intelligent animal does, you can become out of whack and out of sync. So sometimes when that happens, a good practice is when you get back home to where you're based in Central, yes, walk on some natural type of soil or surface. You will automatically feel a lot of healing and regeneration, and that energy grid within, the magnetic grid within you, start to realign itself back. But that is a very good thing to do. All right. Okay, let's see what else we got here. I've heard, again, here's with the I heard stuff. I heard Satan is called Klipok Jewish filth that's blasphemous to demons. Thoughts on this? Because Jewish people believe in the Torah. They believe in a monotheistic God, because the Klipot is very against the Torah. So, of course, any religious Hebraic or Judaic or Jewish person is going to believe that. From a religious perspective, yes. It's just like when we look at the Klipot, we think the Kabbalah and the Torah is fairy tales and myth and comical, and it's a joke, and it's an insult to our intelligence, right? So again, it's about perspective. It's a waste of time. I really couldn't care what any Jewish person thinks about what the Klipot is. It's irrelevant to me. It's not about, who cares what somebody thinks, right? I, self-lord and says a true Satan is an atheist. That's not true. And if so, they don't believe in gods. They don't believe in demons, just saying. No, that's not true. Not all Satanists are atheists, right? And this is a misconception between Luciferians, Satanists, left-hand path practitioners. There are some Satanists who are more religious than monotheistic Christians. Some Satanists look at Satan or the devil just the way a Christian would as the God of the Bible. Literally. You have that aspect of Satanism. There are an atheist aspect of Satanism. But here's the trick I say in that word, right? The word atheist, pay attention now, because there's a trick in the etymology of the words. And I've talked about this over the years. When you're saying atheist, right, atheist has root in the Greek word theos, right? And that's where we get the English word theory. When you look in your Bible, in the New Testament, anytime you see the word God translated, it's translated as theos, right? So even an atheist has a theory, and their theory is they believe that there's no such thing as the monotheistic God, right? So technically, they do have a theos or a theory. They don't believe in a religious God, yes, right? But they do still have a concept, because you could flip the script on an atheist, because just as quick as an atheist could say God doesn't exist, and they wholeheartedly believe that, and they could present information and facts to validate that, but you can't tell that to a faith-based Christian who could simply turn around and say, I'm totally in opposition to that. I 100% believe that a God does exist, even though we know that their God, the way they believe in it, does not exist. So there's a trick in that word. So atheist just means a theory, and their theory is they don't believe that a monotheistic God exists. And it's not a coincidence that in the Greek, they use the term theos for God. So they're telling you that's their theory. They don't even know if God exists. Okay? Got to pay attention. All right? So that's not completely true. Jinjini says yes to Credo Mutua. Yes, Credo Mutua is He's one of those African scholars that's not talked about on a wide scale level, just like I believe Dr. Delbert Blair, in my opinion, was shunned on a lot of levels, kind of kept low key in certain avenues because they talked about a lot of this stuff that was not really mainstream. All right. And I studied a lot of this stuff going years back. I mean, still do. I just don't talk about it openly. But as I said, now I'm going to start expanding the topics and areas that we cover on this channel, right? Yes, and HGG says, laugh my true Satanists are not atheists. You must be thinking of the cringe satanic temple shame mail. And that's true. They're not all atheists. Hollow Vegeta says, crazy. I know a dude named Baldo. That's fucking funny. All right. I'm going to just look for questions. I'm kind of going to skip the comments. All right. Let's see what questions we got. And this is true from Young Finest. He says from Brother Panic to Bobby Hemmett to Billy Carson to Dr. Valentine to Brother Yosef to Brother Beniti and many more. They all have similar but different perspectives. Just take what resonates. That is so true. You can learn something from everybody. This is why don't limit yourself. This is why I say everybody's going to have their own perspective. And what you pointed out is so. What happened? Oh man, what happened there? Okay, here we go. What you pointed out is so true there. Take what resonates. There are a lot of similarities, but the perspective of the individual's experience, their studies, their travels, where life has taken them, and their experience is going to be a large determining factor of what shapes that teacher's perspective. I can only share with you my experiences, not for you to, again, validate and co-sign on them. But the knowledge that I'm saying that I can share is only based on what I've experienced and what I know. And is everything going to resonate with everybody? Absolutely not. I'd be a fool to believe that. Just like I'm sure the aforementioned that you mentioned in that comment, I'm sure they would have to understand that. Is everybody going to agree and validate what Brother Panic is saying? Absolutely not. Is everybody going to agree with Brother Yosef says? Absolutely not. Is everybody going to agree with everything Bobby Hemmett taught? Absolutely not. Is everybody going to agree with Beniti teaches? Absolutely not. That's what I mean when I've been saying since the beginning of this video. You need to come to the conclusion, the understanding, the reality of that based on your research, study, and experiences. I say from day one, you shouldn't accept anything as fact until you can confirm it for yourself. If you know me, that's what I've said from day one. I don't want you to believe anything that I tell you. And I'm okay with you if you have a different opinion, respectfully, as long as you don't get ignorant. You're entitled to that. It is what it is, right? Okay, what else we got? Eric Jones says, like the ancestral realm on Earth, there's a cosmic ancestral realm, aliens, entities, etc. in our bloodline, and they do take offerings for help, protection, and wisdom. And that's true, right? You see that in every pantheon, offerings on a multitude of levels. I agree with that statement. Right? It just depends on your understanding. Do you believe, based on your confirmation through your research, do you believe that there are what they call, I don't really care for that word aliens because it's very Hollywood and spooky like, but I get it. Do you believe that extraterrestrials exist? Do you believe there's intelligent life form out there? Maybe you've had personal experience. Like I said in the beginning of the video, that's personal. So you might have a higher level of confirmation than the next person. That's going to vary from individual to individual, right? I do believe that there is intelligent life form that exists in other galaxies, other realms. But we have to be careful when we talk about these things because it's become very spooked out. It's become very commercialized. People have run with it because they have a hidden agenda, right? But like I say, we're going to talk about these things. So yes, I think that's a valid point. All right. Okay, so I self-loaded message. I don't believe in Satan, thank you very much, but I believe in gods. Well, there's you got to be careful with that. I mean, you're entitled to it. That's your perspective. But when you talk about Satan is just, it's a title. There's many deific masks. I don't want to get into that all now because it's going to shift it somewhere else. But you have gods and goddesses. And when we talk about the archetype called Lucifer, right? Lucifer is a light bearer, a great god of intellect, right? He embodies light and darkness simultaneously because the light that he is hidden in that darkness is the intellect. One must go into the darkness to do work of the light. And in order to gain true knowledge and intellect, you must go into the darkness. Now, that statement can be made from a point maybe of somebody who believes in the religious definition of what Satan is. Yes, I get it. But we don't present Satan in that light, or Lucifer, or any of those concepts. But I get what you're saying. That's your understanding of it, and that's fine. Eric Jones says, like the ancestral realm on Earth, there's a cosmic ancestor. Oh, I just did that. I'm sorry. Keep going. All right. I'm looking for questions. I'm just kind of gonna cipher through. Okay, the title and the author of the book. I just pulled it. Was Credo Mutua, the Reptilian Agenda, is what it was called, by Credo Mutua. Okay, what else we have here? Self-Lord and Master says, do you think you should approach shadow work before one goes digging in different cultures and history, because one could easily search out their unknown wants them to find? I always suggest shadow work is a good place to start when you start doing any spiritual work or rituals, right? Because I've said a million times, and I will always continue to reiterate, you need to be in a sound mind and sound body when you're doing work with spirits, when you're doing intense ritual work. If you don't uncover and address the shadow of the hidden self and address whatever bullshit about yourself comes along with that, yes, it can be a little dangerous. You can tap into areas of spirituality that can create delusion, insanity, chemical and hormonal imbalancements, all types of mental and emotional disorders. That is, unfortunately, one of the risks you do working on this path when you're not in a sound mind and sound body and you haven't addressed the shadow self. So it's always important to address any psychological, mental, emotional traumas or residues that you have accumulated along the way. And we all have, to a certain degree, from our very young birth to childhood to adolescence to teen to young adult to grown-ass mature adults. We all are carrying some baggage. There's nobody walking around that ain't dealing with some shit. And anybody that tells you they ain't got nothing wrong with them, that's the first problem they got, thinking that there's nothing wrong with them. That's a dangerous person. That's probably somebody you want to stay away from, that they really have confused themselves into believing that they don't have any issues, that there's nothing wrong with them. There's nobody walking the face of this planet that ain't got some bullshit they're dealing with. So I highly recommend that, most definitely. All right, I know Lady Shalise made a comment, but I'm not sure what that was in regards to. She said the history of that area depicts that there were people whom a variation of the Israelite story that's fed to the mass, though it isn't what I had propagated all these years. I think you might be talking about the Philistines of Ethiopia, but I don't want to speculate. Maybe I'll see something down further. Roviera, so can you speak on Jezebels? Well, that's a term. A Jezebel in the religious school of thought it's depicted as something negative, right? Jezebels, or what a Jezebel represents more in the occult, the left-hand path, is a very crafty, sly, intelligent woman, a woman that carries a certain energy that can be very tricking and deceiving, and she might use that intelligence, her sexual energy and things of that nature to accomplish things she's trying to accomplish. So when we look at what people refer to as a Jezebel, is that really wrong? Don't humans do that every day to a certain degree? We just trick ourselves into believing we don't do shit like that. So there's different perspectives on that, right? What else we got here? Amritsai will do something on that. Now, the breakdown of the chakras and the dark star chakras, not because I'm trying to pitch my Patreon channel. There's certain things I just won't really go into depth here because not because I'm doing that to say join the Patreon. I do talk about a lot of that stuff on the Patreon. I believe you're on Patreon. And I will be addressing it more deeper there. I will talk about it to a certain degree here because in my opinion, that's what I use the platform of the Patreon page for, where it's a private setting, but I can see everybody. We all interact. And it's better like that because it creates less distractions and disruption because in my opinion, there's certain topics I just won't discuss here because I just feel it's not the right platform. But I will talk about that to a certain degree. Okay. All right. But yeah, I would encourage everybody to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. And as I said earlier, I do 3 classes a month on there and 1 group ritual. And that's tier 3. I would encourage you guys to join. And that's $25 a month. You're not going to get this information. I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to keep it real. And I'm not saying this out of ego and arrogance. Nobody is going to give you what I give you for $25 fucking dollars a month. And I'm sorry, if you're too cheap to afford that, and if you go on the channel, if you are a member, you know, if you see the amount of information and the level of information on there and the rituals that's on there, no, you can't complain about that. And I'm probably shortchanging myself, but I don't do it for a living. But I have to be compensated for my time. But you're getting 3 classes a month and a monthly ritual for $25 a month. Where the fuck are you going to get that anywhere else? I still got people signing up 1 individual class. If you don't join Patreon, it's $56 for 1 class. Some people do it. If you're okay with that, knock yourself out. But I will get more into that dark star chakra. And that comes from draconian philosophy and draconian magic. But I'll touch on that another time. But I will consider that definitely. Yeah, Damballa, you definitely heard that term in that movie. But Damballa Damballa we do is one of the highest highest archetypes in the Voodoo pantheon. Damballa we do is very similar to Obatala, right? He represents purity. You know, he's affiliated with the white cloth, the whole 9. He's usually addressed first, along with Papa Legba. In any ritual work before it's done, you must, this is the tradition. So he's a very high on the pantheon in the Voodoo pantheon. Excuse me, high up there. All right, what else we got? Yes, when we were talking about the feather and the serpent earlier, yes, the feather to shoe, right? You see that good connection when we were talking about the feathers and Quetzalcoatl and the feathered serpent rainbow and all that. Yes, there's a connection there. All right. Yes, Logan Scott says he used Olodumare translates to owner of the serpent's womb. Because Olodumare, Olorun, even Damballa, why is there that connection again with the serpent, the snake, and the cobra, right? You see, again, this is what I was saying earlier, whether you're looking in Voodoo or Voodoo, whether you're looking in Ifa, whether you're looking in the clip hop, whether you're looking in draconian magic, whether you're looking in any aspects of the left-hand path, when you're looking in some of the information that Credo Mutwa was talking about in that book, the Dogons of Mali or West Africa, why such the strong connection when it comes to wisdom and knowledge and understanding and power and magic? Why always the representation of the serpent if it's so evil? And it's traced in the origin in the Bible in the 3rd chapter of Genesis. Who was the one teaching the woman? They're going to reverse the story and say he was a trickster. He went to the woman because the woman was naive. No, the serpent went to the woman because the woman had more reasoning and was more highly intelligent of the man to understand. He couldn't go to the man because the man wasn't as intelligent as the woman. Religion is going to tell you the opposite. They're going to tell you he was a trickster. He went to the woman because the woman was vain and she was weak. Bullshit. That's their interpretation of the story. And what does that story really symbolize and represent? It represents the divine feminine. It represents the awakening of the Kundalini via the divine female. We know that tree that represented in the garden, it's all symbolic, right? There's a connection there with the chakras. Why the pomegranate or the apple? All of those things. I go over all this in the Esoteric Occult Bible study class. I give you the occult breakdown of that stuff. I'm trying to tell you, it's not the Bible that's a problem. It's people who have religiousized it and created their own man-made dogmas on it. It's an esoterical occult book. That's all it is. And that's how we teach it on Patreon. We give you that esoterical occult hidden understanding, right? That's what I'm saying. It's not religion. It's not the Bible and attacking the Bible, because I don't waste my time. I joke around and have fun with that sometimes. I have a problem with the man-made created religions and how they base it on their literal, and I'll say it again, their literal interpretation of the Bible. Okay. What else we got? Yes, there's a lot on Credo Mutua. You can still put up current lectures and there's videos. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. Yes. You can get, I know some of his books are downloadable on Scribd app or Scribd app, however you pronounce it. You can buy his books on Amazon. Yeah, I mean, these are some of the people I'm going to be, getting into on the platform. Credo Mutua, Dr. Delbert Blair, Ivan Van Sertimer. These are some of the people I'm going to reference to when we talk about this information. Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum, I want to get him back on because I think he has a tremendous understanding of a lot of the things we're talking about. And that's on my plate to reach out to him. It's been a while, and I'm going to reach out to him. I want to do something, get him back on because he has a great understanding of these topics, right? So this is what I said. I'm gonna try to give you a bunch of different sources. Some of you guys mentioned Bobby Hemmett. There's other people online like Brother Yosef. Everybody's very familiar with Panic, right? So you have many avenues you can turn to, right? And I'm encouraging you to do that. I'm not saying everything that I'm saying here I want you to accept. No, that's what you should do. You should research and study everything and draw your own conclusions, no doubt. All right, what else we got? Yes, and Angel, a very seasoned practitioner in that system, gave another translation and breakdown to Olodumare as the one whose glory spans the sky like a rainbow, right? I think I gave that title. All right, so where else we at? So this was from Philip. I don't know if it's Philip. Maybe you just spell it like that. Philip or Philip Hill. Is a possibility that we are beings of nothingness and we give ourselves from through creation stories and culture, but it's just a different perspective of ourselves? Most definitely. Because here's the deep thing. We all emerge from that nothingness, which is really the void, the abyss. When we say the void, or that's nothingness, right? And in order to have something, right? I've said this many times, you have to have nothing first. And there's a play on words because the word sum can be spelled two ways. S-U-M, which is to sum, to have the total of something. And then we use it as we spell it S-O-M-E. But to have the sum of a thing, the total of something, you must first have nothing. And in that state of nothingness is where we all emerged. And you basically described what I was saying earlier when we talk about the stories and culture, but it's just a different perspective of ourselves, which is influenced by that culture. Yes, most definitely. That's why you're going to see different perspectives if it's in one specific spiritual system, philosophy, or culture. You'll see another perspective, but notice there will be some level of pattern of similarities, right? But the way you break that down and put it, in a simplistic term, I definitely would say there's some aspect to what you're saying, most definitely. Yes, how do we get it? Just selling your, that's what I'm saying. Not to get back on the selling your soul thing, because I know we addressed that. There's going to be different perspectives on that. My only confirmation of that concept or any validity to it, there's ritual works where you can make pacts to do that. I personally don't do it, fuck with it, because I don't see no need to. And some of it I don't really accept as being valid. But there is allegedly, and there is ritual work out there that exists, that can be done. And some people have claimed they have done it. Whether that's subjective in nature and they can prove it, I don't know. Nor do I really care. But I don't really mess with any of that stuff. I have a difference of opinion. Okay. Okay. One last time with this, and I'm not going to really address this no more. HHG. There's no such word as Jewish. So you're saying, is the Klipothic Jewish? There's no such word as Jewish, right? If we're going to really get into the origin of it, right? Because there's no letter J in the Hebrew alphabet, right? So there was no such thing as anybody in biblical times that could have referred to themselves as a Jew. That's a word that comes way later. Just like there's no word Jehovah. That's a poor translation from these Semitic languages, right? There's no such word as Yahweh because those vowels didn't exist in the Hebrew. So when you say Yahweh, that's incorrect, right? So you're using more modern day terms, right? Qliphoth has nothing to do with anything affiliated with Jewish, Hebrew, or Arabic. The word itself has nothing to do with that, or Aramaic. There's a connection with it there because there's some work in Western philosophy that's connected to the Kabbalistic tree. So even the Kabbalah or Kabbalahism or Kabbalah mysticism, that's affiliated with modern day Jewish mysticism. But again, that word is not even a valid word. And when we're talking about Jewish, we're talking about the more modern day European Jews, right? Who you see claiming to be the modern day Jews today, those aren't the original biblical or quote unquote ancient Jews or Israelites. That's just common sense fact. Right? These were people that converted to Judaism years later. Your Sephardims, your Ashkenazim, your Russian, your European Jews. This comes later. And the language they speak is a combination. It's called Yiddish. It's a combination of German and really broken down Hebrew. So we have to establish that fact that when you're coming with those perspectives, it's more from a modern day Western philosophy. I don't connect the Qlipothic with anything Jewish. Kabbalah practices do. All right, but anyway, I'm not going to waste my time on that. Is it true that the soul gets judged on the other side by the 42 laws? It's perspective. It's theory. When you talk about the 42 laws, you talk about the laws of Ma'at. To get more clarity on that, I've been saying for years, you must first understand the 7 Hermetic principles. Remember, the laws of Ma'at, that governs the objective realm. The 7 Hermetic principles, that governs the subjective realm. Now, we talk about the 42 laws, right? And then you even get into, well, actually, there's more, but I know people focus on the 42, right? Remember, those are to get us a better understanding of when it's the opening of mouth ceremony, that transition into the underworld, or when the individual makes that transition into the abode, the higher spiritual realm. One is supposed to have a knowledge or personal understanding. Now, when you talk about the weighing of the scales, right? You see the scales, the judgment or the funerary scene at ancient Egypt. And that really was trying to show the individual will be judged by their actions, not just what they said out of their mouth. And it's where the Christians get the concept of judgment from. Because they say if the heart needs to be lighter than a feather, right? What does that mean? What is that saying? Meaning, was that person, sincere, right? It's not just about what proceeds out of the mouth, it's what's in the heart. So there's a lot of spiritual mysticism and concepts that lay behind those things. But according to Egyptian theology, yes. What else we got? I'm just going to be honest with you, HHG. Some of your comments are comical. I never even heard of that 9-foot circle. I don't even know where you're getting that stuff from. I'm just going to kind of disregard it. It looks like, I don't know where that stuff comes from. You need to kind of produce some sources. Where are you getting that stuff from? Did you read it in a book? Did somebody tell you that? If you're not going to produce where you got that from, I just have to take that. That's just your personal opinion. It's irrelevant. All right, what else we got here? So Philip Hill says, is the tree of life of the Kabbalah simply the reflection of the tree of death, the klipa being the root and the Kabbalah being the tree that you see? No, that's not true. All right. When you look at the klipa, right, you have 11 of them, right? One must understand, obviously, the breakdown of what they call the Kabbalistic tree, right? Because the Kabbalistic tree really raises you to a level of divinity while you're in human form. What the klipa does, it shows you how you literally get to those higher states of understanding when you go through what they call the Sitra Akra, the other side, where one can go to that abode that exists outside of this three-dimensional existence while yet still in human form. And for little lack of a better word, one can taste death, right? Remember, what did it say? One of the things Credo Mutua said, every one of these systems is based around after every death, there is a resurrection, right? And it shows you that resurrection of immortality. So it shows you the principles of how to attain that immortality, whereas the Kabbalistic tree still has that inferiority system where you get into Kether and it still gives you that breakdown. It's basically still in the line of worship. Now, the concept you described there are some Kabbalah people that study Kabbalah that have that theory in practice. And it's a theory. Again, we're making statements based on certain people's perspective on it, and that's their perspective. But I definitely don't agree with that. All right, what else we got? Yeah, I definitely don't agree with that. This was from John Cachipio. The origin in Lurianic Kabbalah from the 16th century, arguably borrowing from Babylonian teachings by Jewish mystics. Yes, that's because, like I said earlier, not only with the Kabbalah, their creation story, a lot of their biblical stories were influenced from the ancient Babylonians. The six-pointed star, for an example. I said this many times before. People are confused. They think the six-pointed star traces its origin back to Judaism. It doesn't. You find the six-pointed star prior to Judaism in the ancient Babylonian temples. It represented the sun. It represented creation. And they took a lot of those creation stories and symbols from those ancient Babylonian teachings and incorporated it into what we know as Judaism today. So there's definitely truth to that. And again, I don't want to, you guys got to come to that for your research, right? All right, what else we got? Where else are we? All right, just looking for questions. I kind of got to skip because I'm going to get ready to shut this down. All right. I know there's a lot more in here, but I ain't gonna be able to get to all this. All right, so we're all right, so this is what we're going to do. We are taking HGG out of here because now he's making personal things to Logan Scott. We don't tolerate that. We're gonna take you out. You're gone. All right, so we'll hide that. We ain't gonna take none of that. That's the stuff that I'm talking about. People, it's fucking comical. Logan Scott, I just saw some of that stuff. I just hit him from the room. He won't be seen no more. He's out. We don't do that. And this is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. When you do topics like this, unfortunately, people get up in their feelings. And It is what it is. You know, ain't nobody, we're not going to just agree with what people say just for the simple fact that that's what they believe. And you're entitled to believe what you want to believe, no doubt. But you're not going to get personal insulting because people don't agree with you. We're not going to tolerate that. So he's blocked from the room. He won't be seen or heard from. Okay. I didn't see that. I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I had two moderators in here. I'm not sure if Angel and Angel's still in here and Raven. Maybe they're not here, but if the moderators are here and you see stuff like that, take them out. If you are in here regularly, send me an email and I'll assign you as a moderator. I know some of you guys are here pretty much, just in case one of the other moderators can't get here. Yeah, I'm going to close it out because I didn't realize I've been on this long. Yeah. Yes. Any of you guys, I know Serpent-Headed Mask, you're here a lot. I was kind of doing what I was doing. I would have booted him early. I didn't see all that stuff on the bottom. Some of you guys reach out to me that are here more often, and I'll sign. If you want to be a moderator, send me an email. I need to know who you are, though. I can't assign you a moderator if I don't know who you are. Send me an email, and then you see shit like that, just boot people out. That's disrespectful to Logan Scott. We're not going to take any of that stuff. No personal racial stuff, no personal hate. If you don't agree with what we're talking about here, guess what? It's as simple as just exiting the channel, go somewhere else. This is what I'm saying. Some people can't have intelligent conversation. What did I say from the beginning? We're gonna talk about shit that's gonna be it's gonna get under some people's skins. Don't take it personal. I'm not presenting this as all facts. I'm presenting this for further things for you guys to research, okay? But we won't tolerate that. If any of you guys are people coming at you foul in the chat, just let me know. We'll kick them out the room, block them from the room. But send me an email. Let's get a couple more moderators so we always have a moderator in here because not everybody's always going to be here, right? But real quick, I'm going to stop there. I think I went over enough. I know there's a lot more, but I'll be here all night. I'm telling you, the stuff I'm going to get ready to do here is going to open up a lot of shit. The next one's going to really... the next one's going to really stir the masses, right? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to be expanding the topics. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. We're going to be talking about are there extraterrestrials? We're going to be talking about ancient civilizations. We're going to be talking about some of these mystical pantheons. I want to get into some of the sacred orders of Masonry. I want to revisit some of the 5% teachings, right? I want to go through all these things because I'm going to show you I can do that because we're going to look at it from an occult perspective where most aren't. We're not looking at it. Remember, I'm doing these topics because I don't want you to look at it conventionally like the mainstream person does. I want you to look at these things from a more occult, esoterical perspective. All right. So it's going to get hot. We're going to be talking about some shit and it's going to get under some people's skin. But guess what? If you know me, I don't give two flying fucks. That's what I do. All right. But anyway, let's stop there. Don't forget, check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Join tier 3, $25 a month, get 3 classes, and you get a ritual. You're not going to get that nowhere else. Show me somebody else that's offering you that. And don't cry, don't complain to me about no damn prices because I don't bargain with people with that shit. If you can't afford that shit, do what you got to do. But check it out, patreon.com/Baniti. If you need to reach out to me, I know there were some people that asked. Yes, I'm always doing readings and consultations. Look in the description box. It's right there. It's always in the description box of all these videos. The email is there. If you want a full price list of the type of readings that I offer, send me an email. I'll get that over to you. If you're really serious about moving the process up, send me the time zone you live in and your availability. It saves time with the back and forth. Don't forget the Journey of the Black Adept Conference, number 5, which will be this upcoming 5 or 6. Are we up 5 or 6? I can't fucking remember. Again, that has been confirmed, the venue before I came online tonight. It'll be October 27th to the 30th. It'll be at the same venue, Cultural Expressions in Hollywood, Florida, right in the heart of downtown Hollywood, Florida. 10-15 minutes from the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport. Close to beaches, shopping, restaurants, Airbnbs, all that. So a very convenient location, great location last year. The be the same this year. Those that are on Patreon, we do have a class Saturday, Ancient Egyptian Vampiric class, number 4. I don't know what we're up to. Anyway, you can see everything that we're doing at the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti. And all I got to say is it's about to get hot up in here. We're about to cover some topics that I think will spark some conversation because I see a lot more people participated tonight. All right, other than that, I appreciate everybody. I'm going to shut this down. I want to thank everybody that tuned in. Thank you for supporting all the platforms. Primordial Chaos on Facebook, Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram, the YouTube platform. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for tuning in, for the support, and we will talk soon. Infernal blessings. All right, send them live here.